2 years ago, I bought 5 Australian classic cars cheap for sale from the widow of a deceased backyard collector. The widow has died, and now the grandson has threatened to sue as he wanted the cars. The grandson is a lawyer. This was originally posted on December the 15th, 2018. I'm close friends with a co-worker, and we've helped his mother in her 80s with house maintenance. His mother's neighbour, I'll call her Elaine, was in her 90s in 2016 when Elaine's husband, who was in a home, died. While doing maintenance on my co-worker's mother's house, I drove there in my 1975 Falcon, and Elaine came out to ask me to have a look at some cars I might like that had belonged to her husband. I won't go into detail, except 3 were in good drivable condition and worth a decent figure, and 2 more were ruined but good parts cars. At the time, I couldn't afford anywhere near what they were genuinely worth. 2 are at least in the top 5 desirable Australian classics. I told her what they could fetch on the open market, but she was happy to take $5,000 for all 5 cars, well under their value. She wanted to make sure they went to someone who would appreciate them, and I paid for and collected them a week later, and I still have the 3 good ones, 2 now on historic registration, and the other in storage. Elaine passed away in the middle of this year, and her grandson is on the warpath over the cars. He's found my contact details and phoned me several times threatening to sue for effectively stealing the cars from his grandmother, and has turned up at my door once demanding the return of the cars. I've not been served or received anything in writing from him in a legal sense, only his business card, which sounds dodgy. I've verified that he's an actual lawyer, as he claims, through a website of his employer, which lists him with a photo as specialising in commercial and insurance law, just like his business card. I'd have expected if there was a real legal issue with the ownership of the cars, it would be in relation to the grandmother's estate proceedings, and I'd be contacted by mail by someone acting as executor, not via phone calls and doorstop visits by one angry, smug idiot acting like it's happening between me and him alone. Since I'm not a lawyer and my presumptions could be completely out, I'm posting here. This is on r/Australian legal to, I suppose, ask the people of Reddit, what do I do? If need be, I could now afford the market price of all the cars. Is the grandson likely to have a case, and should I find a lawyer of my own? Okay, let's jump straight into the comments here of the original post. Somebody said, not a lawyer, but if Elaine's husband left them to her in his will, she was free to do with them as she pleased. Ergo, the grandson has no claim. He'd be banking on your uncertainty of that to strong-arm you into cutting a deal. Don't ignore any official summons or claims, but you can safely tell him to sod off over the phone. If you want to get really petty, you could contact his law firm and complain about him, but as long as he wasn't intimating that his employer was in any way involved, it's actually none of their business. So they could tell you, cool, so what? OP replied, thanks. Banking on my uncertainty is a good way to describe the vibe that I'm getting from him. He's not exactly throwing his law firm's name around, but it is on the business card that he gave me. Now for car fans, OP actually gave a little bit more information in the comments as to what the cars are. I feel more comfortable describing them now after reading the responses here. One registered is an XY GT replica in nice shape built from a Fairmonts. The other registered is an XB Fairmont Coupe in excellent original condition, and the third I'm still working on getting back on the road is an XA Sedan Falcon 506. Wow. As a car fan myself, those are some crazy cool words and symbols, man. And letters. The last 2 were wrecks and have already been parted out, and the good bits kept. A spare XA sedan and an XW that looks like it spent 30 years as yard art. The XW collapsed at the talk boxes and plenum while being trailered and nearly came off in 2 pieces, but it was worth it for the glass and trim alone. I'm so bored of what I'm reading, goodness me. Cars are just so boring, aren't they? And I'm saying all this knowing that Editor Stevo is listening to this right now and he loves cars. So deal with this, Editor Stevo. Deal with this. And if you don't know who Editor Stevo is, he edits all these episodes. And he's probably angry right now. But do I care? No.
Perfection.
Let's get into the update. This was posted 13 days later. From my original post a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with my co-worker about the issue, and he talked with his mother, who clued me into her neighbour, Elaine from my previous post, not having any grandsons. Wait, what? Wow. Sorry, let me read this again. I spoke with my co-worker about the issue, and he talked with his mother, who clued me in to her neighbour, who was Elaine, not having any grandsons. Wow. My co-worker's mother is still in contact with Elaine's son and daughter, as they own and still work on Elaine's old house next door. She put them in contact with me. They wanted to know who it was who was actually threatening what about the cars, as Elaine has no grandsons. And we spoke. They identified the lawyer grandson as an old ex. He was once a partner of, but not married to one of Elaine's granddaughters for a few years. He's also known to be in a lot of debt, which might actually explain the desperate hunting for valuable items. Okay. Goodness me, a fake grandson story. I was not expecting this. Elaine's son and daughter reiterated that their dad had left instructions to Elaine for the cars to go to someone who cherished them, and they were happy they did, and glad to hear from me that they're still being looked after together. I haven't contacted the faux grandson's law firm yet. I have a lot of evidence of his misrepresentations to me, and after Googling NSW law, I'm not 100% sure of the legality of all of it, especially about sharing my home security and dash cam recordings directly to the other firm, or even speaking directly to them. I'll go through my own legal representation there as a filter on what I need to give them to make sure they know of his behaviour linked to their firm. And before we leave things with a couple of more very, very small updates. Firstly, fake grandson came around twice more. I now have multiple records of him visiting my residence, threats via text, and many phone calls to me after I asked him to not contact me again except in writing. Complaints have been made through my lawyer to his firm and relevant regulatory bodies. I informed him of the complaints on Thursday and reiterated not to contact me again, and I haven't heard a peep from him since. And finally, one more last update. Fake grandson had already been dismissed from the firm before my lawyer and I complained, and he already has complaints against him for other reasons. Well, there we go. Now, I'm actually not sure, and I don't think it's implied here, or yeah, I can't really work out when the fake grandson was actually sacked, whether it was before this all happened in the first place and he was just using the company because he's like, I've already been sacked, might as well just use them and I've still got the business card, or it was during this whole ordeal, not because of it, but because of other things he was probably doing. But yeah, you know what, fair play to the guy. Being a fake grandson, like it's so good. And this would probably work on, sadly, this would probably work on more gullible and naive people, or people who were probably scared of the law. This is the beauty of Reddit, by the way. Like, this is why I used Reddit long before I knew that sort of like posts and stories even existed on the platform, for just genuine great advice like this. Like, this guy did not know what to do in this situation, made a post on r/OzLegal, and then got really good advice from people who are actually lawyers and just general people who, I suppose, know the law or have been in similar situations or just know more than OP. That's the beauty of Reddit. And the second beauty of Reddit is that we get stories like this. Wonderful stuff. Yeah, I mean, he's the dumbest lawyer I've ever come across. I suppose he probably was in serious debt to do something as risky as this. This has to be illegal, right? It just has to be. If not, then, you know, you're getting sued by your ex-company, probably by this guy as well, probably by NSW. Who knows? But yeah, a very, very satisfying end to this one. But genuinely, I'm slightly impressed by the fact that he was like, you know what, I spot an opportunity to be a fake grandson here. What sort of like conniving little rat comes up with that idea? Someone with no morals, obviously, but yeah, great story. And being completely serious, I'm glad that justice was served. My boyfriend keeps disappearing into the bathroom for an hour or more with a stick of butter, and the butter is gone when he finally comes out. This was originally posted on June the 26th, 2020. I am a 24-year-old woman, and I've been dating my boyfriend, who is 30, for 2 years, and we finally moved in together. Ever since we moved in, I've seen a new side of him. It's a very odd issue, and I can't wrap my head around what to do. At first, I started to notice butter was disappearing quickly. I assumed that maybe I had lost track of how much we had, or maybe he was cooking when I wasn't around. I don't know. But one night, a few weeks ago, I saw him try to stealthily take a stick of butter from the fridge, which I pretended not to notice, and he took the butter with him into the bathroom. Now, I have been noticing that my boyfriend has spent an hour or more in the bathroom at times since we moved in, but I've never seen him take the butter before. I was so confused. When he came out of the bathroom about an hour later, I saw no sign of the butter, but I also saw that he did not put the butter back in the fridge. It was gone. I tried to subtly keep an eye on him, and over a week he did this 3 separate times, and each time a stick of butter disappeared. Finally, I said one day, "Where did all our butter go? I hardly used any this week, and it's gone." He pretended to not know and said maybe we'd forgotten to buy it. I said no, we had 4 sticks before, now they're gone. He just acted like it was a mystery and said, "Guess we should order up some groceries." By now I was getting very confused. So I ordered groceries and I made a point of saying, "Good to finally have 4 sticks of butter. This should last us quite a while." He made no comments. On the first 2 days, whenever I used a small amount of butter, I would remark about how much butter we had left. Finally, one day I saw him do it again. He took a stick of butter into the bathroom, was gone for an hour or so, and came back with no butter. I couldn't believe it. So when I made dinner, I acted shocked that 1 stick of butter was gone. He said maybe we only had 3, but he knew I'd been making a point of it. The very next day, another stick of butter gone. I listened at the bathroom door and I heard sink water running and I thought I heard moaning noises. I was so confused. Finally, this time when he came out, I said, "I know he's been taking butter into the bathroom." He got all flustered and said, "I must be mistaken," but I said I'd literally seen him take butter into the bathroom and come out without it, and that I know he's been lying to me about the quantity of butter in our fridge. He then started apologizing for misleading, but said, "Let's just not talk about it." And when he saw I was getting mad, he said, "Well, what if I just order my own separate, private butter?" If he actually said private butter, that is unbelievable. Private butter. Wow. I was like, okay, but what are you doing with the butter? He asked me to promise him to never ask about his butter activities again and to just put this behind us. He said, "Just look the other way on this one thing," and stressed how it's not a big deal at the end of the day. I was like, okay, I guess. But I've been so confused and even disturbed about it. Like, what is he doing with the butter? Why was he lying about it? Why won't he tell me? I don't even think he's eating it because he's not an overweight guy, and I feel like if somebody ate that much butter, they'd become hefty, but he shows no signs of it. I'm just like, who is this guy? Am I overreacting? Is it just so odd that I see him in a different light and I'm not sure what to do? Should I just ignore it? No, is my answer to that. That is the end of the original post. Goodness me. What have I just read? No, you definitely should not just ignore it. You're definitely not overreacting. This guy is strange. Let's jump straight into some comments before we get into an update for this one. Somebody said, "Okay, what the flip?" Somebody replied, "Butter is the flip." Somebody else said, "I love that he acted like buying his own butter would fix the issue." Yes, his own private butter. And then somebody else said, yes, exactly what I've been saying. The phrase private butter really sent me. This is where this woman's boyfriend draws the line. Okay, so let's get into the update for this. This was posted on r/today I effed up, and the title, and this comes just 1 day later after the original post. This morning, I said, look, yes, you should buy private personal butter for your activities, but I said I need to know what you do with the butter. He got very quiet and then said, "Fine, I'll tell you just this once." And he told me. He told me everything. I was so mortified and confused. I cannot tell you what it is, but I will say it is a sensual activity, extremely sensual. It's definitely an inappropriate use of butter. I cannot even type what it is due to how graphic it is. Well, I will say that is a real shame because I knew it was going to be mental and I really wanted to know exactly what it was. Maybe if I subscribe to OP's OnlyFans, I'll find out. But for now, we're in the dark. Sorry, guys. Anyway, let's carry on. On the one hand, it's just butter, but on the other, I can no longer see him the same way. I'm staying at my parents'. To make matters worse, a friend of his found my other post and sent it to him, saying, "Lol, this must be about you." I guess maybe he used to do it in college too? Wait, you're telling me other people know about this? So weird. He's now furious, and now other people I know IRL know what he does with butter. He is angry at me for exposing his butter-based proclivities. Now I've probably ruined my relationship and everyone knows my business, causing me shame and humiliation. I can't believe what he does with butter though, and I don't think I can be with somebody who does things like that. I consider it a momentous screw up for me to have ever confronted him about it. This is my mistake because I can now never unknow what I know. Okay, and there we go. As long as OP is saying it's their mistake because they now know, and not their mistake because they needed to know, as in they needed to know what was going on, and you know, they made the mistake because they should have just left it alone and been fine with it, then I'm okay with it. If they're saying it was a mistake because I should have just been like, oh, it's fine, it's just butter, then no, I completely disagree. But dang, I just want to know. I really want to know. Even if it's the deepest, darkest, weirdest, kinkiest stuff ever, I want to know. What is this guy doing? Now, somebody in the comments has said this. No, what is it? He shoves the butter up his butt? He uses it like a butt thing until slightly melted, then licks it, then back inside the butt and repeats the process until the butter's gone? What does he do with the butter? That is the question on everyone's lips. Now guys, comment down below. What do you think this person does with the butter? Remember this, that YouTube is pretty strict with guidelines on what you can and can't write on the platform. But hey, let's just go crazy for once. Let's see if your comments get flagged, deleted instantly, or they're live on YouTube. I'm probably going to be the only one that will be able to know, and I'm sure I'll have quite a lot of like flagged comments to go through on this episode. But genuinely, I mean, you can just censor it. I want to know, what do you think's going on here? Honestly, while reading this, quite a few things came into my mind. Firstly, I thought, is there a chance he gets the butter and whilst doing things to himself, rubs it on his nipples? You know, that could be something. Secondly, he could just be eating it, could just love a bit of butter, and he wants to be private. He wants privacy when he does that. Thirdly, and I'm going to be honest, this is probably what I think is happening, I reckon that because he's in there for an hour, he is requiring that butter to melt. And therefore, I'm inclined to believe that the final comment that I've just read there is what's happening. Now, some of you out there might think, wow, that's really a hot and attractive. For me, I would disagree with you. And I would think if my partner was doing that, that's a bit weird. If you're going to do it, at least involve me, please. Now, what I will say to end this, and again, I do want your comments down below about what's going on here, but there's definitely a joke about I can't believe it's not butter in here somewhere, and I'm sad that I've not found it. So comment down below, give me something there. Let's, if we can, move on to our next story. My roommate is trying to sublease her room to someone I have a restraining order against. Please help. This was originally posted in June of 2014. When I, a 22-year-old woman, was a freshman in college, a guy named Pete, who was 21, began harassing me to date him. I refused over and over again, and it ended with him ripping my shirt off at a party to try to touch my breasts. I filed a police report, and Pete was found guilty of assault. I have a 1,000 feet restraining order against Pete. Fast forward to this week, and my roommate, Shelly, a 21-year-old girl, needs a subletter to take over her while she studies abroad for the summer. She didn't know she was leaving until 2 weeks ago, and she's been looking for someone to take over since then. She found Pete on Craigslist and asked me if I approved. I showed her my court documents, but Shelly claims that she can't find anyone else to take over and that I will have to deal with it. We got into a heated argument and she just left the apartment. This morning, Shelly texted me that Pete will be moving his stuff into the apartment today. I called the police, but Pete hasn't showed up yet, so they can't do anything. Shelly also says she will be staying for the remainder of the week. The lease says that she can move whoever she wants in without my permission, and the same goes for me, but there's still the issue of the restraining order. The landlord told me that it was between Shelly and me to figure out. We both have 1-year leases that expire in December with the same terms. Okay, let's jump straight into the comments here. Somebody said, is Pete aware that you're the person he'll be sharing the apartment with? You might want to let him know that you'll be calling the police if he sets foot in the place. OP replied, Pete is aware that I'm the roommate because Shelly posted the ad with a photo of us both. Without my permission. I already promised that I'd be calling the police, but Shelly is locked in her room and refuses to listen to me. I'm chilling by the door with 911 already pre-dialed. Somebody else says, I agree with the consensus of calling the police the moment he arrives. Has he actually signed anything, like a sublet agreement? If so, he'll probably be on the hook to pay for an apartment he can't legally step in. Also, I'm not a lawyer, but I can't imagine that attempting to enter a living arrangement with a person holding a restraining order doesn't negate the restraining order. The first question I would ask Pete if I were a cop or judge is, why did you think that you could live there without violating the order? OP says to this that Shelley claims that Pete has already paid her for all 3 months in advance and that he signed a contract with her. I told her that her contract does not override my restraining order, but she basically put her hands over her ears to drown out what I was saying. I plan on calling the cops the moment I see his cart pull up, which is of course less than 1,000 feet. Shelley will still be here for the rest of the week, so I'm afraid this will escalate. Okay, let's get straight into the update then. This was posted 5 days later. Hi everyone, thanks for reading this update. I've added some extra details at the beginning to better explain what happened. Things took some M. Night Shyamalan twists. Details. Shelley and I were not close friends. We were simply roommates with our own separate bedrooms and a connecting kitchen and living space. I've only known her since last December when we originally signed our leases. We've hung out, but the only real connection we had is that she likes anime in Japan and that I am Asian. The Craigslist ad that Shelley posted didn't have a photo. It turns out that she'd used a generic photo of the two of us in an ad on our college's Facebook page, but Shelley took it down before I got a chance to take a screenshot. Okay, so here is the actual update. After I made my Reddit post, Shelley was locked in her room for 3 hours. I tried to talk to her, but she wouldn't come out of the room. She left her room to get food and just walked past me as if I didn't exist. Everyone who I called told me that until Pete actually showed up, no crime was being committed, so I couldn't report it until then. I just sat by the door and window watching for Pete's car. This continued until early Saturday morning when Shelley woke up for her morning jog. I was still on the lookout for Pete's car. I stayed up all night on the couch. Shelley tried to sneak out past me, but I woke up and blocked the door. I needed an explanation for why I was being forced to stay up all night waiting to call the police on Pete when she knew that I had a restraining order against him. Shelley's explanation was that the restraining order doesn't matter to her, that she's dealt with, quote, unreasonable people like me before, and that she's never listened to any restraining order before now, so why should she just for me? The more I listened, the sicker I felt. Shelley basically admitted to me that she is a C-word. I told Shelley that she was a real piece of work and that I was going to maintain my watch for Pete and that I'd contemplate taking legal action. She told me that whether I liked it or not, she was done looking for subletters and that it was my problem. I told her to get out and go for her jog, and she left and came back a bit later and locked herself in her room again. Sometime around noon, I'd accidentally fallen asleep because I'd been awake for 36 plus hours at that point. I woke up and I saw Pete helping Shelley move her stuff into her car. I didn't see him in the apartment, but he was helping her in the parking lot. I immediately locked them both out and called the police. Shelley and Pete came to the door again, and when Pete saw it was locked, and when he saw me watching from the window, he blew up at Shelley. He started to ask her why I was in the apartment and why Shelley didn't tell him that I was the roommate. He demanded his money back, and I could hear them screaming at each other through the door. Wow, you know what? All this time reading this, I genuinely believed that Pete knew that OP was living there, somehow. Maybe it was the photo that turns out actually wasn't posted on the Craigslist ad, but I just thought that this was Pete's way of getting back into OP's life and breaking the law, breaking the restraining order. But maybe that isn't true. The cops showed up and handcuffed Pete and Shelley. I told them my story, and Pete said he had text messages and emails to back himself up. The cops checked his phone and saw texts from Shelley saying along the lines that her roommate wouldn't care about XYZ because he was a chill guy. Pete had posted his own ad looking for a male roommate. That's right, Shelley is a liar too. The cops released Pete because he had proof that he didn't know it was me. I'm okay with this because I saw the emails and texts too. Shelley was charged with disorderly conduct and her mum came to get her. Sunday evening, Shelley and her mum come back to the apartment to finish packing for her study abroad. Shelley made some snide remarks about me definitely going roommate hunting to find her a subletter as I said I would. I ignored her. Shelley left for her plane this morning. You know the good thing about separate leases? I'm only liable for my rent, not hers. So I'm going to sit on my butt for the rest of the summer while she gets evicted for lack of rent payment. There we go. That is it for the story. A crazy one. Let's get into some final comments. Somebody said, it sounds like a terrible situation all round, but it also does genuinely sound like Pete didn't know. And now that he does, he won't be back to bother you. Since you're on separate leases, you should hopefully not have anything to worry about legally or financially. Let Shelley deal with those issues herself. She brought them on herself. A quick question. If she does fail to pay, could you in any way get kicked out, or are you pretty much in the clear? Either way, good luck. Your roommate is immature and deserves the consequences of whatever happens to her in this situation. And OP replied to this, our leases explicitly say that we are only liable for our individual portion of the rent, so I am in the clear. And Pete really didn't know about me being there. That is how much of a female dog Shelley is to let a man get arrested over something so stupid. And thanks. Somebody else said, I mean, what did she think was going to happen? On top of the shameless buttholery, Shelley sounds like she's missing a few marbles. OP said, I think that what happened was that Shelley was focused only on going abroad and wasn't focused on her own actions. She couldn't find anyone, so as soon as she found someone, she thought, problem solved, and ignored the problems until I called the police. I mean, yeah, that's one thing, and I'm sure it's very annoying to have to find another subletter when you've already found one, but given that your current roommate has a restraining order against the new subletter, you think this person would say, okay, fine, I'll put the effort in to find a new one rather than say, no, you know what, you can just deal with this. And finally, OP also left this comment. I wish that Shelley could have gotten charged with more, but she started bawling her eyes out to the police officer, and he went easy on her because she looked so young. To me, it's just another sign that she's an awful person because she was manipulating the cops. The lease states explicitly that I'm not liable for her rent, and even if she tries to sue me, it's my word against hers, and I'm confident I'd win that legal battle. Pete is staying as far away from it as he can, and he apologized to me and is trying to get his deposit back from her. And there we go, that is the end of that one. As I said, right at the top, in the introduction, I do genuinely believe that what Shelley has done and her actions in this story are right up there with some of the strangest and yeah, just downright ridiculous I've ever seen in a story on Reddit before. It's just so crazy to me that she wouldn't sort of understand how dangerous what she's doing is. Can't she put herself in your position, OP, and think, oh my goodness, what if I was in her shoes and she was doing this to me? How, first of all, dangerous would that be? But then, like, imagine the anxiety that you're putting on somebody, just like the mental struggle, not sleeping for that long, the fear. It is ridiculous. It just is ridiculous. I can't think of another word to describe it. I do think that OP summed it up pretty well by saying, Shelley basically admitted to me that she is a C word. Yes, that is what she is. And I understand the fact that you are just roommates, and being roommates doesn't mean you have to be best friends. But still, as one young woman to another, doing this is crazy. I also really actually genuinely do feel pretty bad for Pete. I mean, Pete is clearly a terrible person as well, but if we're sort of parking that in the past and saying that maybe he's improved as a person after that and, you know, served his time or whatever he's done, he's had his punishment, for this now to happen and him to be arrested again for doing something that he didn't even know was going on, for being within 1,000 feet of you and having no idea, that's also a terrible thing to do. Like, I'm glad that Pete wasn't stalking OP, but also I feel bad for him genuinely a little bit, because I was sure that he was going to be a conspirator somehow. It's actually pretty crazy that he just happened to get dragged into this, and yeah, the coincidence there. But maybe there aren't that many apartments in this area, who knows, but unbelievable. Now, one final thing that I do want to bring up, that I just noticed whilst reading that, which is very, very strange, was that she said, well, OP said in the post, she's never listened to any restraining order before now, so why should she just for me? Like, what does she mean by that? Is that actually true, first of all? Secondly, does that mean that she's had a restraining order put on her before and she hasn't listened to it and she's gone against that? I don't know. But anyway, OP actually replied to this saying, same thing I thought when she said that. I've got no clue what it means because I wasn't going to argue with her about it at the time. But Pete was definitely 100% not trying to stalk me. She just lied to him and wouldn't back down once she found out about the restraining order. So who knows? Maybe Shelley didn't actually know what a restraining order was, because surely you wouldn't legitimately say, I've never listened to a restraining order before, why would I now, knowing what a restraining order is? It just doesn't make any sense. But then not much of what she did in this story does. I don't know. Help me out in the comments down below, guys. What do you think about this one? Is Shelley just brain dead? Or did she not really care, knew that she was leaving the country and just wanted the money and not to be evicted? Who knows? I'm going to lean more towards the former, to be quite frank. Fiance used my childhood trauma to win a video game. I don't even know how to type this or explain my thoughts right now, so I apologize if I seem scattered. I am a 31-year-old man, and I've been engaged to my fiance, who is a 29-year-old woman, Emily, for the past 3 months. We've been together for 2 years. She's been the only relationship where I felt safe enough to open up and discuss my past trauma. Many nights I've cried into her arms and she's been there to comfort me. She goes to therapy with me and has been a rock in our relationship. I've been getting much better since I've really opened up about it, and I've been able to live a better and liberating life the past 2 years. Until last Saturday. Emily is ultra competitive, not just in sports, but in life. She will do whatever it takes to win and be number one. She's lost friendships, family relationships, jobs, and money. She understands this and has been trying to get better by going to therapy, stating she doesn't know why she's like this. She seemed to cool down over the summer, but she's still very competitive. Even her parents have no idea because they've never pushed her to be number one, and her siblings are confused as to when this all started. I was a former college athlete, and yes, I am competitive, but not so much anymore. And recently, my friend group had begun a monthly game night. I was on a 4-month win streak. We played board games, old video games, painting, basketball, and even football. And it was all in good fun. But Emily last month was so angry she didn't win that she walked home and didn't want to talk to me for at least 2 days. Before we left for games night, I asked her to please have fun. It doesn't matter who wins. She promised she would try. Now, as game night came to an end, Emily and I were tied with one more event. Rules are, if it's man versus woman, the lady chooses the final game. She selected N64 Mario Kart. Now, I'm the king of that game. I never lose. I asked her if she really wanted to do that, but she called me a chicken and was big talking that she will beat me at my own game. I should have backed off, but I caved and we raced. Now, common knowledge is let her win, and trust me, I thought about it, but she gets really angry if she thinks you let her win. Her attitude is way worse then. As we started racing, it was a tight race. She kept hitting the banana peels, but kept catching up. The last lap, she started trying to distract me by saying, "He snores when he sleeps," basic middle school insults. Then she tried bumping me to distract me, but I was locked in and focused. I responded back, "At least I don't keep hitting the bananas, love." Very simple and fun. We're in the final leg of the race, and that's when she snapped, "At least I didn't get SA'd by my own family." Oh my gosh. I froze up and dropped the controller, and she passed me and won. She was jumping up and down with joy, screaming and dancing that she finally won. From what my friends told me later, she kept that up for a good while until she saw my face, and that is when she stopped. My friends were in complete shock, asking me if that was true. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe, and I was fighting back all the inner demons I had swirling in my head. I simply got up and wished them a good night, and I started walking. I was in a trance. I didn't know where I was walking to. Emily tried calling and texting, asking where I was, begging for me to call and come home. She kept saying that she is sorry, she just wanted to win so badly, and I don't know why I said that. I simply needed space, and I told her to please stop calling me. I don't know what to do. I loved this girl, and I trusted her, but she used that trust to win a freaking video game? My friends are asking me about my past, and they won't leave me alone. I guess all I'm asking is if there's any way back from this, or is this the end? Do I dump her, or try and work this out? Any advice would be very helpful. Okay, let's jump straight into the comments of this one before we get into the updates. Somebody said, "Man, she got serious issues. In my eyes, there is no coming back from this. How could you ever trust her again?" And somebody replied to this, like, dude, yeah, right? Like, what's to say she won't do it again and blame her competitive personality for it? Somebody else said, she used your biggest, deepest wound, one that she only knew about because you trusted her, to win a dumb game. She exposed your biggest, deepest wound to other people without your consent. There is no coming back from this. You shouldn't want to come back from this. How will you ever be able to trust her with anything again? She's shown you who she truly is, and you deserve better. I'm very sorry you had this experience, and I hope you are okay. Okay, and I just have to simply agree with the comments here. There's no doubt about it. This relationship has to be over. Like, even the fact that she is that competitive to the extent that she can't ever have fun, I personally think that is a massive red flag in and of itself. Like, being competitive is one thing, and I'm pretty competitive. But if you're a very competitive person, you have to know when to turn it off, when it's actually affecting other people and ruining the mood. Like, if you're having a games night, and yeah, sure, everyone wants to win, but it's meant to be fun. And if one person is taking it so seriously that it's not fun for other people, then it's just not worth it, and they're being a bad person. Like, don't get me wrong, when I play football, I really want to win, and I will be as competitive as I can possibly be, just because I am naturally like that, right? But if I'm having a games night with mates or something, or like, I don't know, playing a computer game against friends, then like, does it really matter that much? Yeah, sure, I still want to win. But if I lose, am I going to be that like egotistical to say, you know, this has ruined my night, you don't deserve this, I'd do anything to try and win? No, there's a time and a place for that. Now, that's without even talking about the fact that she has brought up your past essay, which is just ridiculous. And of course, with that on top, this relationship, for me, is 100% done. Now, there is an update to this one, which we're going to get into. But first of all, OP left this little edit at the end of the original post saying, I want to thank everyone for their comments and DMs. I've been reading all of them for the past 3 hours. I guess I knew this was the end of this relationship, but after spending 2 years with someone and having strong feelings and trust, I wanted to see if a majority of people could see something else that I didn't that could possibly save it. And reading the comments, I guess I overlooked the massive red flags that Emily had. Okay, so I presume then the comments were saying similar things to me, that even without that comment, that final essay comment, revealing that to, you know, that room full of friends who obviously didn't know, she still had big red flags, which is what I was saying. I decided to sit down with my friend group tonight and tell them about my past. It will be difficult, and I'll text Emily tonight and meet with her tomorrow. I will update tomorrow after that conversation. That's a good point as well. I mean, like, it's tough on your friends to just have this sort of thrown on them, and I'm sure they're not entirely sure how to react, like saying, did that actually happen? Do you want to talk about it, etc.? You'd hope that they would back off and just like let you do what you want to do with that information and come to your own conclusion. And you've said, hey, you're going to chat to them and reveal it. Fine, that's up to you. I don't like the fact that they keep asking you. That's a bit ridiculous. You obviously do need space. But anyway, 2 days later, we got this update. Hey guys, I want to thank everyone again for all the support. It helped me clear up my head and really reflect on the past few months with Emily and finally see the red flags that I ignored or didn't press hard enough on. First of all, I need to get this off my chest. From the ages of 11 through to 13, I was SA'd by my aunt. She'd come over to babysit and she would do the deeds and have me do stuff to her. She would threaten me if I ever spoke out. I tried to ask my parents if she could not babysit, but my mother told me that her sister absolutely loves you and wants to spend time with you since she can't have children. If it wasn't for my dad forgetting his wallet one night, I believe she wouldn't have been caught. My mum went mental and didn't believe any of it, and went on the campaign tour around town saying she is 100% innocent and I am just confused. My dad went into the bottle and tried to enter the shadow realm because he couldn't forgive himself for missing the signs. My mum then threatened me to make an announcement that her sister is not a predator and then attacked me. My dad divorced my mum and she and my aunt moved elsewhere. All these years later, she truly believes her sister didn't do anything. My dad and I are okay, but he doesn't want to be around me much because of the guilt. Secondly, I met with my friends and I told them my story, and they all apologized and promised to help protect me in the future with relationships. They told me what happened after the event. Emily was trying to defend herself by claiming, I didn't mean to say it, he took it the wrong way, I just needed to win this, I love him and didn't mean it. Sorry, saying I just needed to win this, and by saying that, sort of vindicating or at least trying to explain why you just revealed that unbelievable thing, is crazy. Fair enough. She's been calling all of them, begging for them to please help her, quote, win him back and I'll do whatever it takes, and I'll see anyone to help me with my condition. So I met today with Emily. My friends invited her over and they sat in the other room while we talked. Emily was unhinged. She came flying into the house trying to hug me, but my friends held her back and told her to just sit. I asked her why she said what she said. I don't know. I just needed to win so badly. I followed up with, why does she need to win this one? Because it was your best game and I don't know, I just needed to win. I again asked why she needed to win. What was the importance of winning? And Emily said, through tears, I don't know. I needed to win. She kept repeating the same line over and over. So I asked if she had planned on using my trauma against me and if that is why she chose Mario Kart. I've never seen someone go white so fast. Emily just looked at me and put her hands in her face and blurted out, I can't stand not winning, and I knew you'd get distracted and I could win and finally feel great. Because these past 4 months I've been so depressed from feeling like a loser and I knew I could win with this plan. Oh my goodness, so she planned to say this and still thought it was a good idea. Jesus. I was in shock and I couldn't believe she said that. I realized that some of the commenters were right. She had this planned. I'm still trying to gain control of my thoughts on this one. You had this planned? I asked. Yes, I didn't think about what would happen after. And when I saw your face, I knew I messed up. Please, I want to get help and I'll do anything. Please don't end this. I asked if this was another competition in her head to win me back. No, I mean, in a way, yes, but not like that. So if you win me back, you'll feel better that you won? I told her I can't trust her anymore. What if we had kids? Will you see them as a competition? If your friends are being flirted with, will you try and get more attention for the win? What if I'm simply doing something and you blurt that out again to win? She had to be escorted out by my friends, and I was told by one of them I should get a restraining order because her mental of losing you may break her mind and she might do whatever it takes to win me back. So again, thank you everyone for all the comments. I'm going to get more help and take a break from dating until I find someone who I can trust 100%, and now my friends will be on extra guard for any Emily sightings and future dating red flags. So there we go, that is it for that story. And I'd love to honestly say that I am surprised by the fact that Emily doubled down and was like, I was just trying to win, I thought it would be alright. I've been so depressed because I've been losing every games night, by the way. Oh, what a loser. But I'm not, because the sort of person that would double down is the sort of person that would pre-plan this and yeah, like actually think, you know what? Okay, I can get away with saying this to try and win Mario Kart. Terrible, terrible person. I mean, genuinely probably one of the worst people that we've seen on Reddit for a while. Like, I know 2025 has just started, guys, but this woman has used her boyfriend's deepest trauma against him to win a game of Mario Kart. It's an early contender for worst person of the year. Someone is going to have to do very, very well to beat Emily. So, look, guys, you've got, what, 11 months to do it? Go out there, be my guest, give it your all. It's going to be tough. Am I the jerk for refusing to drop charges in exchange for saving my family? So the original post for this one came back in September of 2024. I am a 33-year-old man, and I met my wife, who is also 33, in college. It was a long-term physical relationship that turned serious at the end of our senior year. After graduation, I didn't have plans, so I decided to move to her hometown, major southern city. I didn't know anybody, so we were together 24/7 and moved in together within a year. During this time, I met her family a few times. She had a huge extended family, where her mum, Sharon, was the matriarch. Her dad died in a workplace accident, and her mum got a lot of money. She was smart and invested and is doing well. All of Sharon's siblings and nieces and nephews look to her for advice on all major life decisions. She's paid for school, weddings, and helped start businesses. My wife has 2 brothers who I always got along with. We'd hang out independent of my wife a few times a year. We got married after 3 years, and when my son was born, Sharon bought us a house 3 blocks from hers. We'd lived in a downtown loft-style apartment, and this was honestly a relief. But with the house came Sharon constantly being in my life, coming in the house unannounced, unsolicited advice, and snide remarks at my expense. Eventually, 18 months later, we had a blow-up fight, and I moved my family across town to an apartment. My wife was annoyed, and our relationship has deteriorated. Sharon hates me and has turned most of their family against me. I didn't see or go to any of her family events for over a year. My wife still saw her family, but because I wasn't invited and they were over 30 minutes away, it was much less. Sharon went from seeing her grandson almost every day to once a month. So of course, her hate for me went through the roof. The incident. My wife had to work, and I was asked to take my son to his cousin's birthday party. The party was at Sharon's house, and if it wasn't my son's first cousin, 6 months apart, I would have said no. It was tense the moment I walked in. Father of the birthday boy, my brother-in-law, greeted me, but nobody else spoke to me. I didn't mind, I just sat in the corner on my phone. This apparently annoyed Sharon because I was being rude. An argument ensues, and I announced that I'm leaving with my son. Sharon said, "You can go, but my grandbaby is staying." At this point, I lost my cool and I started cursing her out. I woke up on the front lawn. Apparently, my two brother-in-laws beat the trash out of me in front of my kid. Two of her cousins were helping me up and told me just to leave. I immediately called the police and said that I was assaulted and my child was kidnapped. The police came and both brothers were arrested. Sharon lost her mind on the police, and my wife drove up as her mother was being arrested for refusing to release my son. Her mum was eventually released, but her brothers were arraigned on assault charges. Now, the father of the birthday boy had an assault charge from college, so he is facing some serious consequences. My wife is mad at everyone, but asked me to drop charges. I not only refused, but I got restraining orders for all three of them. Her mother isn't allowed to be near our kid, and her brothers have court dates early next year. I told her I would think about it, but I think I would rather get divorced. I honestly want to keep my family, but I don't believe she'll ever abandon her family for me. If I drop charges now, I doubt I can bring them back later. So, am I the jerk for not trying to save my family? Okay, before we get into the update for this one, and there is actually a little edit from OP as well, in which he tells how his wife found this post as it blew up overnight on Reddit when it was originally posted. Let's first of all jump into some comments because we get a little bit more information from OP there as well. So OP has replied to a comment saying about how the state should press charges, or in theory always would press charges, not the victim. He says, "I just want to comment on this because it keeps coming up, and you are 100% right. In the initial confrontation, the cops asked if I wanted them arrested, and I said yes. I was more bruised than bloody, and they were willing to let it go as a family dispute. That's where the 'what did you expect to happen' conversation came from. I'm not pressing charges per se, but I'm not letting it go. I've done 2 interviews with police, and I've been fully cooperating. If I stopped, they might drop the charges because they seemed more annoyed than helpful. I doubt the younger brother will get more than a slap on the wrist. My wife's oldest brother, though, with the prior, is in a lot more trouble. He is the one that everyone is worried about. Also, Sharon never went to jail. When my wife arrived, Sharon was being escorted to a car. My wife and her 2 uncles got Sharon to calm down and they let her go. She wasn't being violent, but she was cursing and blocking them from entering the house. The only thing positive about the arrest, and Sharon's almost arrest, was it made getting a restraining order way easier. But even that took a month. Also, I'd never talked to a lawyer for any reason, or had any trouble with police. I honestly don't know how any of this works. I just found out the difference between parole and probation a few weeks ago." Now, somebody else made a comment about Sharon, which OP replied to. They said, "Sharon is not a good mother. Her habit of buying everything for everyone is robbing her grown children of having their own achievements, which builds character, mental toughness, maturity, and pride in themselves. A better parent would have matched their savings for down payments. Obviously, there was a price to be paid for her investments in their lives. She's able to make major decisions in their lives. She's able to walk right in like she owns the place because she does. It sounds like she is an overbearing, iron-fisted, suffocating presence in their lives." OP replied to this, saying, "I keep feeling like I'm defending this woman, but trust me, I'm not. She started flipping houses in the 90s before it was a thing. She always kept her job as a nurse and kept investing in new properties. She helped both her brothers start their own construction business, and 5 nieces and nephews now work in real estate. Her 2 smartest moves were 1, she was an early iPod user from her time as a nurse and invested heavy in Apple stock in 2002, And 2, she pulled out of big real estate investments in 2006, a little early, and sat on her money until 2010. Then she bought up a ton of property. That is to say, the woman is smart and accomplished, so everyone sees her as this messiah of wisdom. So when she deemed me a jerk for not wanting her in my house constantly, and then a bigger jerk for moving my family across town, everyone fell in line. If Sharon thinks he is bad, then he must be bad. Okay, now let's get into the edit that OP left on this. He says, "This blew up overnight. It was actually my wife's cousin who DM'd me because she found it. She was there that day and told me to add some more context because her family is getting destroyed in the comments. She's right, so here are a few more things. 1, I don't think anyone is evil in this situation. Everyone loves Sharon and her advice, except me. She's not a mean person, but we are polar opposites in many ways. My wife is the baby, an only girl, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with our conflict. Sharon losing her mind on the police was uncharacteristic, and even I was surprised. My wife is a great mum and partner, but her inability to be independent of her mum's influence is our issue. She is mad at her brothers and isn't talking to either. She's also mad at her mum for starting the argument and refusing to release our son. She's just trying to find a middle ground. I genuinely think she hopes a fresh start can save our marriage. Until we moved into that house, I'd say our relationship was good. As far as her brothers and the assault goes, I remember the first hit, but I was dazed immediately. The last thing I remember was flailing like a child while getting hit a few more times. What I don't remember is my kid screaming to "Stop hitting my daddy!" and then picking me up and dropping me on the lawn like trash. I have to acknowledge that my pride hurt more than my bruises. I genuinely liked both her brothers, and to be fair, F you and female dog came out of my mouth when I cursed out Sharon. I'm not 100% innocent. This is the South, so the police even said, "What did you expect to happen?" Oh, okay. That is where the "what did you expect to happen" comment comes from. I don't know if I stop pursuing this, if it would continue or not. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the initial post. We did, however, get this update 4 months later, just a week ago at the time of recording, January the 20th, 2025. Hello. Let me start by saying thank you to the supporters and F you to the jerks. Reddit is one heck of a place to get perspective on things. The only place you could be called a good father and a cuck in the same thread. I don't think I've ever related or just completely supported a point more than that. That is brilliant. I've been wanting to write an update and answer questions for a while, but after my original post, many Reddit lawyers reached out and told me to stop talking immediately. Since things were very uncertain and my divorce wasn't settled, I decided to not respond or update anything until things calmed down. A lot has happened to so many people involved, so I think I'm just going to break it down by person, starting off with myself. I moved back to the West Coast, where I'm originally from. I decided to move forward with the divorce, so I moved home. Furthermore, I had nothing left for me in that city, as I only had a few friends, my son, and a lot of bad memories. My ex and son cried a lot the day I left, and that hurt my soul, but it was best for all parties involved. So, I moved back home to be around my family and my support system. I got a good paying job, and I'll be subletting a 2-bedroom apartment starting next month. My son spent the holidays with me, staying with my parents, and I plan to see him on Easter. Going forward, laid out in our custody agreement, my son will stay with his mother until he is 12. I'll get him Easter and summers, and we'll switch Christmas and Thanksgiving every year. When he's 12 and needs a father figure, he'll come and live with me until he's 18. What? When he's 12 and needs a father figure, he'll come and live with me until he is 18. I'm not like OP, I've been on your side the entire time here. I don't get this at all, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and I'll give my thoughts at the end. Anyway, I talk to my son every day on the phone for at least an hour, and I'll try to fly out there a few times a year. I can't shake the feeling that a piece of me is missing, and I wish it was just my son, but I miss my wife too. Now on to my ex-wife. So the divorce is basically settled, and I obviously didn't move away with her. In the end, she saw my post and saw the comments and realized that she shouldn't have asked me to stop pursuing the case. She asked again, saying, "We could move and just get away from my family." Too much had happened though, and our relationship was a shell of what it was. We both said and did things we forgave but can't forget. I wish this was a movie and I could just say love conquers all or screw her, she's evil, but that isn't real life. I'm torn between both loving this person and knowing we aren't right for each other. While she didn't want to move forward with the divorce, she didn't fight me on it either. We were able to settle everything without lawyers and only use them for paperwork and fine details. We talk daily because of our son, and she says she is doing well, but last time I FaceTimed her, I can tell she isn't eating. My sister said it's post-breakup hotness, whatever that means, but she looks more sick than hot. She hasn't spoken to her brothers since that day and blames them a lot for what happened. She and Sharon's relationship is also very strained and they barely talk as well. Ironically, she is hardly speaking to the family that she was so desperately trying to keep together. I honestly wish she would talk to her family again because I do worry about her a lot. People were very mean to my ex-wife, saying she was a terrible mother and wife. I think she lives for and would die for her family, and all her actions were to keep us together. She told me her two biggest regrets were moving into Sharon's house and moving out of our apartment. Those two actions caused most of our problems. She's a great mother to my child, and I will always have her back. Now, for the brothers, I didn't expect much as far as punishment in this case. They both pled out to a simple assault, which only had minimal consequences. Both of them spent a night in jail, got fines, and anger management. The older brother had a prior incident that I mentioned earlier. That was a bar fight in his early 20s. He hit a guy with a bottle and got an assault charge. But since that case was over 15 years ago, and he's married, a pillar of the community, etc., he was given probation for a year, and that was that. Both brothers have partners in life, and the oldest one is married. I've known his wife for many years, and we've always been friendly. Because of the restraining order, both spouses reached out on behalf of the brothers to speak to me. I barely knew the younger brother's girlfriend, but since I knew the wife, I spoke to her. She said both brothers regretted their decision, and she asked me to lift the restraining order and not pursue charges. We had a brief conversation, but I simply told her I don't forgive her husband and brother-in-law, and I'm moving forward with both. As we ended the conversation, I told her to not call me again, and I haven't heard from either brother since. I don't know anything beyond what the ex tells me, and she's not speaking to them. So, Sharon. I did have it out with Sharon, and it went about as well as you can imagine. Here is a little backstory to our relationship. Let's start by saying that my ex and her family are devout Christians who go to church weekly. I'm a lapsed Catholic who goes to church 3 times a year. I live a very moral and ethical life, but my belief system isn't centered on the church. Furthermore, I consider myself a moderate liberal, and their family is moderate conservatives, i.e., I'm down the Second Amendment and Sharon supported gay marriage. Ideologically, we were far apart, but we agreed on the important things in life. The real problems began when my son was going to be baptized. My mum wanted to get our son baptized Catholic, and Sharon wanted him baptized Protestant. Lots of snide remarks about Catholics were said, but I let it go at the time. The ex and I decided to wait and let our son decide, which Sharon hated. When my ex started going back to church and I wasn't in attendance, that further widened the divide. Her family would go by Sharon or someone else's house after church for lunch and dinner, and I either showed up later or not at all. Every time Sharon didn't agree with the decision we made as a couple in regard to our lives, especially my son's life, she would start leaning on my wife and pressuring her behind the scenes. We would literally make a decision and she would go to her mum's house and then come back with a different opinion. The most frustrating part is she stopped trying to talk to me at all. She would literally just call my wife and get her to change her decision. The big fight that led us to moving out was that my son wanted to play soccer and not football. But good lad, by the way, a massively superior sport. Well done, that man. Let's carry on. But my wife's family is a huge football family. We agreed for him not to play football because he didn't want to play and are concerned about CTE. My wife comes home one day and does a 180, saying that she signed him up for football. We start arguing and Sharon comes in the house unannounced and joins in the conversation, saying, "We decided it would be good for him." I got annoyed. I told them, Sharon is not my son's parent, and my ex shouldn't be so weak when her mum is pressuring her to do something that we decided not to do. Then she said the words that sealed the deal. My opinion should matter. I bought the house. I started looking for a new apartment that night, and I never looked back. So when we talked, neither of us raised our voices, but it wasn't a nice conversation. I started, and I apologized for calling her a female dog, and she apologized for trying to keep my son without my permission. She flat out told me she wished my daughter never met me and that I've ruined her family, that her sons have criminal records now. One already did, and that's all my fault. She then started crying about not seeing my son and how she lost her only daughter. I told her she was manipulative and used her money to control the family, that she only didn't like me because she couldn't control my decisions like her weak-willed family. I also told her she consistently overstepped her bounds in regards to my child and my marriage, and she put her own selfish interest ahead of her daughter's happiness. After spending an hour calling each other jerks in different ways, we ended things in the same place. In the end, I told my ex that her mum could sue my son because Sharon loves him unconditionally and he loves her. Call me stupid, but I think family is a big part of your upbringing. My mum isn't around him enough, and every child needs a good grandma. The ex said that she'd been to a few family situations that were hard to avoid. Wedding, funeral, Thanksgiving, but she leaves when her brothers come and my son doesn't leave her side. Sharon has seen my son and he's played with his cousin, the birthday boy from the original story, but she's keeping him from the family for the time being. Okay, now on to my son. He is having a hard time with everything. It's not the fight, he thinks we were wrestling. He misses me a lot and cries on some of our phone calls. He's in therapy, and all the sessions are about missing his dad and why we can't live together. It's been a few months, and it is slowly getting better, but we've ruined his childhood, and I take my share of responsibility in that. Now finally, the cousin. She is my wife's first cousin, but they are more like sisters. Sharon is her aunt by marriage, and she was the first to warn me about the family. She was also eviscerated by the comment section for having me add to the story. She told me I was out of line for calling Sharon a female dog, but didn't feel I deserved to get beat up. Likewise, she also grabbed my son when the fight happened and took him away. She was the one who told my son we were wrestling, and she called my wife to come immediately. When Sharon was being handcuffed, the cousin came outside holding my son. I told her to give him to me, but she pointed at my swollen face and asked if she could hold him. I trusted her enough in that situation to care for him, so I respected her enough to add those details. She didn't deserve the trashy comments either. I presume, I didn't actually see any of that myself, guys, but I presume that, people were getting a little bit annoyed on Reddit for, the cousins saying to OP, no, you need to add these details. It's making the family look terrible. But yeah, I suppose with this additional information and context, we can see that the OP does trust his cousin in this regard and during the story. So then, the conclusion. In the end, everyone in their family read the original post. But because of divorce and assault cases, no one directly contacted me other than my ex. It wasn't a hit, to say the least, but I only care that it hurt my ex's feelings. I think seeing everything written out from my perspective opened her eyes. Obviously, some things were left out and broad strokes were made to explain complex situations. In the end, she said I didn't lie, but she thinks I painted her family in a horrible light. We thought about writing a joint update, but we're not talky enough to make that happen. I told my ex about this post, and I asked if she wanted to read it before I posted it, and she told me to just write whatever I want. Nobody won here, we all lost. Okay, so that is it for the post and the update. However, I've picked out a couple of comments that I think are very important, and I want to speak about myself. But first of all, somebody has asked, and I think, as you can tell when I was reading that, this was sort of the main thing that I had to interject and actually speak about and question. Somebody said, I understand everything else, but did you really have to abandon your kid? OP replied, I knew I would get destroyed for this, but abandon is a strong word. I didn't abandon my son. I left for better opportunities in life for both of us, both mentally and financially. My chosen profession has more opportunities here. I was only there for my wife and child. My career picked up during the pandemic because I could work remotely, but in-office work is becoming mandatory again. I was already going to have to quit or move companies, so the timing was right. Also, my mental health is 10 times better now that I've left the city. For months, I gave my child fake smiles while trying to be a good father. I was a shell of the man I wanted to be. I'm still broken by what's happened, but I'm in a better place mentally. And in the long term, I'll be better financially. And I mean, you can probably guess what I'm going to say here, guys. This seems unbelievably selfish, and I will get to my thoughts in full. But someone replied to this saying pretty much the same thing. Quote, "You left for better opportunities in life for both of us. For you, though, yes, but actually for him, not really." OP then finally replied to this, saying, "Yeah, your assessment of my situation is understandable, but me working for less money and being constantly unhappy isn't good for my son. If I could have stayed in state, trust me, I would have, but the economy is effed. I used all my savings to continue paying bills, and I live with my parents for free to start over. Maybe I could have found happiness there, but I didn't see it happening. We are co-parenting the best we can." Okay, so there we go. That is the end of the story. I have so much I want to talk about, but yes, the first thing I do want to focus on, and that is the reason I read those comments at the end, is that I can't help but feel that OP is just being very selfish here. The fact that he said that his own son doesn't need a father figure until 12 is so ridiculous. I actually thought he was joking for a second. But a kid not needing a father figure until they're 12, and then what? When they become 12, they then do need a father figure? Why 12, first of all? And secondly, are you dumb? Secondly, I'm not sure I agree with like the I need to do this for me. Yeah, if I'd stayed, I would have been with my kid, but it would have been worse for him, and yeah, maybe worse financially, sure, but I don't think it would have been worse for him mentally, you staying around and him not crying and wondering where his dad is and going through therapy because his dad isn't there. It also, and I think this is probably the main thing, it sounds as if, according to your ex, like she was fine with that as well. It wasn't as if she was the one that was like, no, I don't want you to be in his life at all. You can only see him, what, like 3 times a year, which is ridiculous. It sounds as if she was like, you know, pretty chill with you still being in her life and his life. And maybe, I don't know, but maybe she didn't even want the divorce in the first place after realizing just what had gone on and potentially the way that her mum had manipulated her for all those years. Who knows about that? But yeah, it wasn't as if you were shoved out of your son's life. You just chose not to be in it anymore, which I think is very selfish. Like, isn't that sort of the point of being a parent? You sacrifice yourself a lot of the time for the future, or even just the current like well-being of your children. I don't know. I'm not a dad, but I feel like any good dad would do that. I just want to go to one more comment here, and this is the main thing that all the comments are saying is just they cannot get over how messed up the custody arrangement is and how bad they feel for the boy because he's just in a terrible spot now. Somebody said, you know, it's okay. The kid won't need a father figure until he's 12. And then they say, I look at my 11-year-old son, though, right now, who is right this moment absolutely idolizing his father. They spend time in the shed together, building things, working on cars and bikes. They play games together. They learn about Pokemon and dinosaurs together. They have boy jokes that us girls don't really find quite as funny as they do. Of course, if you're a boy, you know that. He talks about clothes he likes that dad wears, what kind of work he might do that dad can help teach him about. He's learning things from his dad that he could never from me, long before the age of 12. And so much of it can't be found in a daily hour-long phone call. And I scroll through all the comments, and they're the same. So, look, while reading that story, there were lots of things that I did want to talk about. But ultimately, do they even matter when your dad is just doing this to you and acting in this way? Not really. I mean, we know that every family has people that you don't get on with or that don't get on with each other, right? It's just like part and parcel of life. And there are always going to be crazy disputes. And on the one hand, you could say that Sharon is a bad person because she is so involved in everyone's lives. You could also argue the complete opposite, that she has given lots of her family so much and they owe her a lot. And I think that is, you know, it's a pretty sort of like logical way of looking at it, but sorry, like if someone has given you a house, then you do owe them a lot. Like, yeah, I wouldn't like it if someone had keys and just came in at any moment and was deciding on every single decision that happened in my life. Of course, there's a line, but also you have a really nice house because of this woman for free. So there is that. But as I said, like, who really cares when OP, the dad, is acting like this? I don't know. I feel like that just sort of trumps everything bad that we've seen in the story that's going on, even with the brother-in-laws. I mean, look, you never want to get in a scrap, but if my dad was being beaten up, but then actually turns out he didn't want to be with me or raise me, would I really care? Not really. I don't know. It's probably Pretty cynical way of looking at it. I just think I find it hard to sort of feel for OP when he's seeing his kid 3 times a year out of choice. My best friend says I owe her everything I have, including my boyfriend. Now, the original post for this one came on the 23rd of September 2018, posted in r/relationship advice with this title. My 24-year-old female best friend, also 24-year-old female, is too handsy with my boyfriend, who's 26, and I think it's inappropriate. I know I should be careful calling someone best friend in a post like this, but I don't know how else to call Jessie. Our parents are great friends, so we grew up together, and she kind of had my back in high school. Long story short, on the teenager food chain, she was on top, and I should be on the bottom. But nobody messed with me because I was Jessie's friend. Jessie is one of those people who requires attention. I never minded though. Nobody's perfect, right? But now that I have my first real boyfriend, she doesn't know how to behave. Every time we're together, she's really handsy, always touching his arms, running fingers through his hair, complimenting him. And now she's even started with the prank spankings on the butt, you know? I just feel really uncomfortable with it. Maybe it's normal. I mean, Jessie has a lot of guy friends, so maybe this is okay. My boyfriend never thought much of it either. Am I just overreacting? She is super pretty, so maybe I'm just jealous. Anyway, yesterday something really threw me off. My boyfriend had to do some work, and I had a book thing, a hobby, so we decided to meet later at a friend's house. They were getting together to drink and so on. My boyfriend finishes work early and calls me, but I don't really need him to come over to the book thing. I know he doesn't like it, so I just tell him to go to our friend's house. Then I start getting texts from Jessie, all like, "Girl, you gotta come to this party now. Your boyfriend is wasted. Lol. Lol, we're so drunk. You need to come and stop us. I can't behave myself if you don't get here soon." And so on. The book thing took longer than I thought, and I was just getting mad and madder. But I am a very non-confrontational person, so I deal with it. I call my boyfriend when it's over, because I don't feel like going to this party anymore. But I was his ride, so I ask him if he needs me to come and pick him up. He says, sure. I get there, and I don't even go inside. I'm ready to release the hounds of hell on him. But he gets in my car, and he's stone cold sober. I ask him if he was drinking, and then show him Jessie's texts. He gets super upset and says she was lying. He wasn't even hanging directly with her, but actually catching up with a friend who just came back to town. He says I should have texted him, letting him know what she was saying, so that he could confront her about it. Since you don't ever seem to be able to give that girl some boundaries. Those were his words. Now I'm thinking that maybe I should just talk to Jessie. But maybe she was just drunk and annoying me because she wanted me there? I don't know. I mean, this girl was really nice to me growing up when she could have been a female dog. I don't like how she behaves around him, but at the same time, I don't want it to look like I don't trust her. Is there a polite way of going about it? Or should I maybe wait and see if this happens again? Or am I overreacting? Okay, so there we go. That is the end of the original post. Quick comments from me. Nothing crazy here. It's obvious. You're not overreacting. And yes, you need to tell Jessie that what she's doing is highly inappropriate. That is just my thoughts off the bat. But one day later, we got our first update. Here it is. Yesterday, I posted here about how my best friend Jessie is a bit handsy with my boyfriend and it makes me feel uncomfortable. I am very thankful to all those who commented, especially the ones who encouraged me to say something. I don't like arguments, so those were very important to me. Thank you. Last night, we were alone because she wanted me to help her choose clothes for an event. I was at her place, so I thought I should say something. I wanted to. I was very polite and I just said that I knew she meant no harm, but I didn't feel good about it. So I asked her if she could tone it down. I should have said stop, but I guess I'm weak. She didn't really say anything mean, but her attitude was a bit off, I think. She was looking at me in a scornful kind of way, and the way she smiled once I was done talking, it just felt weird. She didn't say anything else but okay. And we just moved on to choosing her clothes, and I left after. We were supposed to go and get something to eat, but she said she was tired. I'm not dumb, she was hurt. So I texted a common friend, more her friend than mine, and without getting into details, I just told him that I talked to Jess about something that was important to me, but that I was afraid she may have gotten the wrong idea from it. The common friend said, look, I don't want to get involved, but you should watch it. I asked what he meant, and he said, nothing, Just watch it. A little while after that, he texts me back and says, "Changed my mind, I do want to get involved," and then sends me a bunch of prints of texts going back and forth between him and Jessie. It basically starts with him asking her if the two of us had a fight, because I was worried. He was kind with his words, I don't mind him stepping in. And then just a non-stop stream of her being horrible. She says I had a big mouth and was judging her behaviour because I'm a prude who doesn't know how to be around guys. How she taught me everything I know about having a life, and how dare I tell her what she can or cannot do, or how I should thank her for even having a boyfriend at all. Our common friend actually called her out for being rude here, and no friend of mine. After the prints, he told me, "I'm done with her. I give up, and you should watch it." He also said it was okay if I told her I had the prints. I didn't though. I didn't know what to say. I mean, she's not 100% wrong, but even though I know that, it really hurts to read those. This morning, I wake up and see she texted me late at night. She says she knows that our common friend, Pete, sent me the prints, and she didn't mean to be rude, but it's ridiculous that I am jealous of her, because if she wanted my boyfriend, she could just have him. "You want me to prove it?" she said. So, I'm being silly and should drop it, is what she meant. She ends it with kisses and a joke. So I don't know if she was being playful, apologising, threatening, or being pragmatic. Whatever she's being, it's downright weird is all I'll say. I didn't answer her yet. I don't know what to say. Should I even say something, or should I just let it go? I wish I could talk to someone about this, but I'm very private. I usually go to Jessie with these things. Help! Well, all I'll say here, guys, is that, okay, have a laugh, bit of fun, joking around with your friend, but if you're then saying, I could steal your boyfriend anytime I wanted, just like with a click of my fingers, and if you want me to prove it, I just will. Yeah, that's very malicious and extremely odd behavior that is, not something any friend should be doing, clearly. Here actually are a couple of comments from one Redditor underneath that first update, which I think sums up what I'm saying here. They say, "It sounds like this person is completely wrapped up in their own head and has a serious case of overthinking their importance in life, especially others' lives. Obviously, we're all going to tell you to drop her because she's not a desirable person to be around if that's how she acts and talks to you in person and behind your back. This person thinks they own you enough, so they've decided to let you have your boyfriend. F that. Also, show your guy everything that's happened because guaranteed she's going to go after him." And then OP actually replied here saying, "I suppose you're right. It just gets me, It's a 20-year-long friendship. I keep thinking that maybe this is a misunderstanding. She didn't mean it, or she's going through a hard time and doesn't know how to deal with it. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not overreacting, so I needed some outside perspective. As for my boyfriend, I think he would turn her down quite fast. He doesn't really like her. He just hangs with her because of me. He's always saying that he'd rather not and all, so it's unlikely that they'd be alone together, but I will talk to him. Thank you for the heads up." And then one final comment from OP. "Turns out she already went after him. I was stupid." To be honest, could have seen that one coming. This girl clearly has an agenda against you. Okay then, a couple of days later, we got the second update on September the 26th, 2018. "My boyfriend is having sex with her." Oh my goodness me. "A friend convinced some other friends to send me prints of text between themselves and either my boyfriend or best friend. They are pretty clear. I confronted my boyfriend. He looked lost, said he loves me, and it was just sex. He says that Jessie kept throwing herself at him, teasing him, and he said he didn't like her, but I still wanted to hang. He said he just had sex with her to see if she would move on and leave him alone, and that it only happened a couple of times. He says he won't do it anymore. He doesn't even like her. He loves me, asking me to please forgive him. Sorry, I've got to interrupt here. What an absolute disgrace of a man your boyfriend is, OP. What on earth is he on about? I don't even like her. Just having sex, even though I'm in a relationship. What a good bloke. From the text, once I finally made it through them all, I think that Jessie went to the party where me and my boyfriend met because she wanted to hook up with him. She had it bad for him, but he didn't feel the same way. She was trying to get him to break up with me and then to get me to break up with him. It worked. As of yesterday, he is a single man. In some of those texts, they're talking about some of the hookups. I feel like throwing up. I blocked him because he was still trying to get in touch. I ghosted her, but she just sent me a message saying she just heard what happened and, this is probably for the best, right? and I feel like freaking screaming. I don't even know if this is an update or just me venting. Thanks for listening either way. I mean, that's some update. Goodness me. I really did not expect your boyfriend to stoop to that level, but wow, there we go. Now, once again, here are a couple of comments that I picked out replying to the second update with some good thoughts that I agree with, and OP's replies. First of all, someone has said, well, yeah, I would just ditch that whole friend group and start trying to find new friends. My God, that is effed up. I completely agree. OP replied, yep, done and done. I think I'm being too permissive with the word friend. It was going on for months. Everyone knew, and nobody had the decency to tell me. It was only the one friend who wasn't even that close who stood up for me. Going on for months? Oh my word. Another commenter said, you also can't make her hurt. She has no respect for you and clearly doesn't care, so it will be impossible anyways. It would have the same effect as a drunk stranger telling you that you're awful. Yeah, it might make you angry, but you didn't care about that stranger, so what they say is irrelevant. Also, I can't imagine anything so utterly not worth your time. The delightful side effect of just ghosting is that they will stew on it. They want the reaction, but they get none. They realize they lost all their power and never get to know and feel that satisfaction that comes from getting the reaction you wanted. Great point. 100% phenomenal point, and also a very good analogy and simile with the drunk stranger. Because yeah, you're going to be like, well, it's a bit weird and annoying, but who are you? I don't really care. Clearly, Jessie feels the same way about you, OP, as much as that is a horrible thing to say. It is the truth. So yeah, I know you deeply want to get her back or anger her in some way, but I agree with this commenter. There's just no point. OP replied to this saying, I get what you mean. She is actually still texting me. I didn't mention one detail because it wasn't important, but we were all meant to be traveling together soon. My family paid for some of Jessie's expenses. She is messaging me about the vouchers since I have them all. This freaking woman can't even wait a day to ask. It's like she suddenly remembered she still needs me. I mean, I'm not giving them to her either way. The trip is off. Can't she tell? I'm very much thinking the silent treatment will be the way to go, I guess long term there. I think she just realized she needs me for the trip, and that's why she's been aggressively trying to contact me. Now she's saying that she liked my boyfriend first and I was the one who stole him, so she is the one who should be mad. I know I should just block her everywhere, but is it petty that I'm having fun watching her squirm? I wanted to have the last word, but not saying anything is driving her crazy. Now, this next Redditor mentioned about what I said earlier, while reading to be fair, saying, he said he just had sex with her to see if she would move on and leave him alone, and that it only happened a couple of times. Says he won't do it anymore, doesn't even like her. He loves me, asking me to please forgive him. Lol, that is one of the stupidest things I've heard. It's like saying, hey babe, I jumped off a cliff because somebody was really pestering me to do it. Then they say, I feel for you, OP, but what an excuse. I mean, yeah, imagine saying that. Ugh, fine, I'll just have sex with you and then you'll leave me alone. Seems pretty likely. OP replies saying that they actually almost fell for it. How pathetic is that? He was saying he cared about me, it was just a mistake. He thought she'd back off, and I felt it was a bad decision on his part, but maybe it made sense and I could forgive him. Then he says something like, and I didn't even like her. You were the one who always wanted us to hang. And that is when my brain joined the party and was like, is he seriously trying to blame this on me? Yes. Yes, he is. He was trying to gaslight you. All right, then, a few more comments here from OP about the upcoming trip. I'm actually interested as to why OP thought that wasn't key information. Clearly it is, right? And also, have a look at this. The most disgusting part, OP says, is that it's a trip that we take together with my boyfriend and some other friends. So she really thinks I would let my family pay for her to go on vacation with my ex, who she cheated on me with? I'm starting to think this woman is sick. Like, for real. And OP has also here given us a little bit more context about Pete and his role in kind of proving, or I guess showing OP what was really going on. She actually says that it was all Pete really discovering the severity of the situation. After Jessie texted OP saying that she could get my boyfriend if she wanted to, I just answered back, what the F, Jessie? And she lolled as if it was a joke. But then Pete texted me asking if I was alone. He was really kind and told me everything. said he had the proof and asked if I wanted to see it, and I of course said yes. So he'd actually gone after our friends and convinced them to send the screenshots, the prince. He's really well liked by everyone, and he was the one who said, that's enough. Pete is gay, by the way, just in case anyone jumps the gun like my mum did and think he did this because he's interested in me or something. He's not. He's just a decent person. I guess the point here being that everybody in the group, or a lot of people in the friendship group, knew about this. I mean, if there are screenshots between Jesse and other people in the group and your boyfriend or your ex-boyfriend OP and other friends in the group, and nobody's telling you this apart from Pete, who finally said, that's enough, OP has to know. I mean, what sort of friendship group is this? And yeah, it brings me back to another commenter from before who said, are these really your friends? Come on, you need to look for a new friendship group. And I agree. A little bit more info here on Pete. He convinced 3 other friends, OP says, to send him texts between them, the 3 friends, and either Jesse or OP's boyfriend so that he could have proof, because he thought that what was happening was disrespectful and somebody should tell me. There were prints of text between 2 friends and Jesse and 1 other friend and my boyfriend. They were pretty clear. Okay, so that is the number we're looking out for there. 3 friends, Jesse, your supposed best friend, and your boyfriend. 5 people who I presume you thought you could trust a lot, all going behind your back and knowing about this. Obviously, some worse than others, but still, is it that much worse? One of your friends not telling you about this than Jesse and your boyfriend? I mean, yeah, they're the ones that are doing it, but by not telling you this information, they're withholding so much from you that they could easily just tell you. Like, I don't get it. Why not just tell you? Obviously, they're not as bad as Jesse and your boyfriend, but there are levels to this. It's like when there's a bully in school, right? And a lot of other people know the bullying is going on, but don't inform a teacher or don't tell someone to help out and, you know, help out the kids that are being bullied. They just stand there in silence. Who's actually more in the wrong here? Because the people that just don't say anything could stop the bullying in a second. Yeah, the bully's the bully, but there are other witnesses that could do something about it that are choosing not to. And in my opinion, that might be just as bad. All right then, a few more points from OP before we get on to the 3rd and final update, which, by the way, is coming up. Jesse especially, OP says, didn't seem to care about hiding it at all. My boyfriend's texts were mostly wondering if I'd noticed something and wanting Jesse to back off, while saying she was hot, etc. Goodness me. There was no 100% confirmation on his side. It wasn't a chat between him and one of his closest friends, so it was kind of generic, but when I confronted him, I said I had the screenshots without saying what they showed, and he just confessed. Now look, I really appreciate those screenshots. It was ultimate evidence, but I don't think they actually did it for me. It's a Pete thing. You'd have to know him to understand. He is the stand-up guy who is everyone's friend. He is a huge people person. I think they sent the prints because it was something for him, you know? He was the one leading the charge and dealing with consequences. If it were just me, I don't think they would have done it. All right, next up, a little sort of interlude here. An edit from OP, which is extremely wholesome, talking about Reddit as a whole. Here we go. OP says, I don't want to sound melodramatic or sappy or anything, but you all brought me to tears. We keep hearing about how it's insanity to rely on the internet for personal connections, but I just lost a boyfriend, a best friend, and a whole group of friends. And instead of feeling alone, I'm more and more feeling like, frick yeah, that was the right thing to do. I'll be okay. Yeah, it still hurts, but not as much as it would had I really been alone. I can't even begin to thank this sub. I really don't know what to say. Even on my previous post that didn't get as many responses, it was some of the comments there that made me approach the cheating thing knowing I had to break up and move on. So it changed my life in this moment. And considering I'll be doing a lot of soul searching on toxic relationships, this probably changed my life for good. So thank you all so much for reaching out to a stranger. This community is so precious. Okay then, so here we go. The final update posted on October the 2nd, 2018. OP says, I said I'd come back if anything relevant happened, and here we go. There's a 3rd update, so I reckon something has happened. My ex-boyfriend kept trying to get in touch through common friends. They kept asking me to unblock him and at least hear him out because he was really sorry. He loved me. He was a mess. He didn't mean to. Someone even went as far as to ask me if I was really sure it happened. They offered to send me prints of texts where he was talking about me so I'd see how he always had great things to say and how much he cared. But I've had it with the print screen drama for life and said no. To the ones who insisted, I told them I wasn't unblocking him. I had nothing to say or hear, and if they kept pushing me, I'd block them too. I ran into my ex-boyfriend at this book thing I go to, that hobby of mine. Maybe I'm being presumptuous, but I think he went there for me. He didn't really have any business there, but I'm just speculating really. No, that's not speculation, that's true. You said earlier that you didn't even ask your boyfriend if he wanted to come and join you because he doesn't like it. So yes, he was there for you, 100%. Anyway, the boyfriend asked if I had a few minutes for coffee. I said I was late, which was a lie. He walked me to my car. He looked so good, smelled great. He was so sweet. He was even wearing his hair the way I like it. I feel horrible because even after everything, I still like him. He apologized some more, said he knew I needed time and space, but asked if I consider giving him another chance because he would wait for me. He said he'd never talk to Jessie again and would act like they had restraining orders against each other. And I just found it really funny how everything he was saying required me trusting him, which I don't. So I told him I wasn't interested anymore and he should move on. I wish I'd said something snappier or wittier, but I had nothing. This was on Saturday, and I haven't heard from him or friends since. I think that was that. Jessie also kept trying to talk to me. Like OP said in the comments, there was a trip coming up. It would have been me, Jessie, my ex-boyfriend, and a few friends. Since Jessie couldn't afford it, my parents paid for most of her expenses. I mean, yeah, the fact that she still now feels like she is owed that trip is just mental. She must have remembered this right after everything went down and panicked because I had everything. The vouchers, the emails, credit card info. She went crazy. She even showed up at my place. I wasn't home and my roommate told her to F off, exact words. I didn't block her at first because I admit I was having some fun watching her despair. I talked to my mum and she was amazing. She told me I should cancel everything even if it cost us money. It was fine. So I did. And for one last bit of print screen drama, I printed all the emails I got confirming cancellations and sent those to Jessie with the word bye before blocking her. Oh, that is lovely. My roommate's been amazing. We were never really close and now I don't even know why. She cancelled plans with her friends to stay with me and invited me to go out with them next weekend. There you go. Lose a couple of friends. Well, friends in inverted commas. Gain a real friend, your roommate. That's phenomenal stuff. A few of you suggested I see a therapist, and I did, yesterday. I really liked it. It was just one appointment, and I mostly just talked, but it felt good. She gave me homework. She talked a little about unhealthy and abusive relationships, and asked me to think about my friendship with Jessie, and try to point what was healthy and what was unhealthy about it. It made me realise that she was never actually really my friend. She was taking advantage of me for years, and she even had me thanking her for it. My therapist also told me about this saying, I think that's what it is, called the narcissist prayer, which goes something like, that didn't happen. If it did, it wasn't my fault. If it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, then you deserved it. Which is totally how Jessie is handling this whole thing now. Wow. That is actually an unbelievable phrase. I like that a lot. So, good riddance indeed. And a final piece of gossip. Pete talked to me yesterday. He's checking up sometimes. He's a good guy. Again, he is gay in case someone is still thinking this might turn into romantic comedy. I mean, to be fair, it would be pretty amazing if it did, but yes, he's gay. He said that Jessie was super sure that since I broke things off, she and my ex-boyfriend would hook up right away. But apparently he doesn't have the same plans, and that freaked her out over the weekend. Pete says he really is a mess and went out drinking hard 4 nights in a row to the point that he had to be carried home by his pals. And yesterday, they all went out for lunch at this burger place. Jessie was going to run her fingers through his hair or something, and he just pushed her away and told her to stop and to never touch him again. Great that now he manages to do that. Huh? Yeah, exactly. A little bit too late. I guess in the end, he really did like me in his sick way. The thing is, I don't want to be with someone who likes me in a sick way. I want to be with someone who likes me in a healthy way. I think I deserve that. I'm also thinking about taking the money I got back from the trip to go somewhere else by myself. I haven't decided though. Anyway, this will be the final update on this, since it's unlikely that I'll have anything new to add. Now, I think I just need some time to heal and let go, you know? I might come back in a few months if there is reason to do a yay, life is awesome now post. But I wanted to post this update now because I wanted to end this whole story on a bright note. And of course, thank you all again. You are the best. And there we go, guys. That is going to do it for this one. Another phenomenal story. And I've used the word phenomenal a lot in this episode and the last, but I feel like it's the most apt word, you know? Again, just great stuff. And what I love about this one as well is, I do say it enough, I know, but it does show the power of Reddit. And I agree with OP. People would say, or have said, and perhaps I used to say it in the past, that asking internet strangers for advice and, you know, opening up to the internet is weird and it's insane, as OP said, and it's not going to get you anywhere. Well, actually, no. I feel like, you know, with every passing year, people are now starting to understand the power that the internet has as a force for a community, that you can now build real relationships on here. And if you want some genuine advice, sometimes actually the best place to go is the internet. A subreddit like r/relationship advice, where people don't have a vested interest, they're just seeing things for what they are and can give you some real tips. You know, no bias, just say, this is what's going on. Jess is a narcissist. Your boyfriend's terrible. You need some new friends. It's tough love. But I think, as we can see in this situation, sometimes that is what people need. And yeah, I really hope there is actually one final update in a few months from OP saying thanks to Reddit and thanks to also herself being brave and dealing with this stuff in the right way. Her life is now awesome. How cool would that be? Am I the jerk for banning my wife from naming our baby after her dead best friend? Long story short, I am a 28-year-old man, and my wife, who is also 28, is estranged from her family and has been since a teenager. She met Eva in school, and they were inseparable, with Eva letting my wife stay over a lot, as well as providing a constant source of support. I met my wife at university. Unfortunately, Eva died suddenly a year into our relationship. I'd met her a few times and she was lovely. My wife was understandably devastated. 2 years ago we married and she took my last name, Brown. Our baby girl is due in the spring, and understandably my wife wants to honour Eva in her name. This is something that she has said throughout the relationship. I was happy with the idea of honouring her, and we've discussed baby names throughout the relationship and pregnancy. The leading name we were tossing about was a place name that had significant memories to them. Yesterday, she came up to me and said that she had a dream about Eva asking her to remember her by her name. She had some like this around the time Eva died, but none recently to my knowledge. And to memorialise her, our baby must be called Eva. I said, absolutely no way. She said, why not? And I reminded her of the historical figure Eva Brown, wife of probably one of history's most evil figures, and I reassured her that we will tell our kids about Aunt Eva and she'll always be remembered, but my wife refused, saying it has to be her name. She says that few will make the link to the historical character and she won't be bullied at school. Now, a little history lesson for everyone in case you didn't know. Eva Brown, spelt B-R-A-U-N, was then known as Eva Hitler, as of course she was married briefly to Big Adolf. I mean, I just can't say Big Adolf. Right, if I'm not... right. Okay, Big Adolf, as he was known colloquially to his best mates. Adolf Hitler, of course. So yeah, being completely serious, I do fully understand that OP probably wouldn't want his daughter to have the exact same name, at least phonetically, as you hear it, as the woman who Hitler married just one day before he unalived himself, right at the very end. Anyway, back to the story. OP's wife said she had fell out with the place name, and a family member has had a baby recently with a similar name, think Brooke to Brooklyn. I suggested things to do with Eva, such as her birthstone, or honouring her through a middle name, or even names that had Eve or Eva in, anything but Eva itself. She started crying and said that she won't name the baby anything else, and it's the ultimate way Eva can live on. I said it's a terrible situation, and if we had literally any other surname, we could, but I literally can't. Not only am I extremely morally opposed, I work in a field where if there was wind that I name my child Eva Brown, my work could be at risk. She's saying I'm making excuses and not supporting her, as she is putting in a lot of effort to having this baby. This resulted in a fight, and now I'm on the couch for the second night in a row. Some of our friends are saying that I'm being dramatic, But my sister, who is the mother of Brooke, is telling me that if she continues to register the baby without her. To be honest, I'm leaning that way if she continues not to compromise. I'm really not sure what to do. Am I the jerk for not wanting to name my baby either? Okay, now that is the end of the post, but before we get on to my thoughts on this one, first of all, a couple of relevant comments. Someone below asked OP, can you use your wife's maiden name? OP replied, my wife is estranged from her family, of course, and was therefore very eager to drop her maiden name. She has said that name makes her think of her horrible past. I know she would not ever change her name back, let alone name a child with it. She is also really close to my family, who took her in as one of their own when we met due to her situation. Now, we are in the UK, so yes, she could have kept the name if she wanted to, but she is estranged from her family and has been for 10 years. Her family don't know where she is or of my existence. She had a common first, but a distinct maiden name, so she wanted to swap to my, obviously rather common name, not only because she wants no ties to her name, but also so they could not find her, as they are very bad, dangerous people. This is also why we will not consider comments about swapping to her maiden name. Now, some people also asked about OP's profession and why people would know what was wrong with that, and yeah, maybe why his job would be at risk. OP says, I work as a history teacher in a very liberal school, and Nazis is a decent chunk of the curriculum for some of my older students. Not that I would share my personal life in depth to the students, but my colleagues and SMT would definitely ask about it. I hope to rise the ranks at the school, so I don't want to affect that. I also have a cousin who is one of my older students, so there is a risk of students and de facto parents finding out my baby's name that way if her friends ask. And finally, OP says that Braun is pronounced Brown in German, so people who know history will know. OP says, yes, I am based in the UK and I teach the Nazis in my syllabus, and while my German is very basic and picked up from a couple of weeks of travelling, plus some of the vocab I've come across in my job, I thought that Brown was pronounced with a similar ow sound to Hauptmann or Augen. Correct me if I'm wrong, just curious. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the first post. Yeah, on the name thing, I'm not sure myself. I think the only real way to know is if you are German, get in the comments down below, enlighten us. Is Braun, I'll put it on screen right now, this pronounced like brown, or is it brawn? I'm pretty sure it is brown, it's not brawn. But yeah, if we could get some cold hard evidence from the German people out there listening or watching this, that'd be great. Now, as for OP, I will say that, yeah, I completely understand your viewpoint, my friend. I studied history and the Nazis in depth later on in my secondary education, and then I did history at university, and there's no way that my teachers or professors would ever dream of having any sort of name or any sort of tie that could be like make them look terrible or make them look weird or put them in a bad light, like back to them, if that makes sense. It's very, very unfortunate that this is the case and that Eva Braun had the name that she had, and she had the ties obviously to Hitler. But yeah, I don't think there is a world in which you can possibly have a daughter called Eva Braun as a history teacher who teaches about the Nazi party. It's just not going to work, sadly. And I do think that there are lots of other options that you could go down with your child's name that do include Eva, as you said, in some form. But yeah, don't explicitly say Eva Braun. And I think your wife has to understand that, surely. I mean, it can't get much worse than being a history teacher and calling your daughter the same name as Hitler's ex-wife. Surely that's just not gonna ever happen. Your wife surely has to understand that, no? And of course, I get it from your wife's perspective. Eva Braun, to be fair, not a massive name in the grand scheme of things. I think you'd have to have studied the Nazi party, well, not in depth, but I mean, not a lot of people know who Eva Braun is. I mean, I had to remind myself there, to be honest, and I studied the Nazi party. So, you know, not the biggest name of all time. No one's going to instantly click and go, wait, hang on, that's the same name as Hitler's wife. But yeah, as you said, you're a history teacher. You cannot risk something like that. You just can't. Now, of course, this is r/best of Redditor updates. Therefore, there is an update to this one. I really hope, before I get into this, and I haven't had a look at this, I hope there is a resolution, because this seems like such a stupid... first of all, it is very unlucky. But secondly, if there isn't a resolution here, then it is very silly and just sad. Now, the point that your sister made at the end about you just registering the baby without her, that is a terrible idea. I don't know why you say that you're leading that way. Is that what, you just name the baby without your wife knowing the name? That's absolutely ridiculous. Don't do that, and I really hope that isn't what happens here. But that's some of the worst advice I've ever heard. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the update and see what happened next. Okay, so here is the update posted 22 days later. Okay, soon after posting initially, I called up Eva's sister, Rose, as my wife, Lou, is really close to her, and I explained the situation. I know I shouldn't get people involved in marital matters, but Rose's opinion really matters to Lou, especially when Eva is involved. Rose agreed with me that naming a daughter Eva Brown would be harmful, and she mentioned something that we believe to be a game changer. One thing you must know about the late Eva, dear reader, was that she was a writer. She kept journals, which her sister held onto after her death. In one of these journals was a baby name list, where she gave 5 names for a girl and 5 names for a boy. Rose held onto these names when she was having children. One of her sons is named the top boy name, but she's done now and wants to give it to my wife. We believed we have to introduce this carefully, so we launched a game plan. The next day, I sat down with Lou and said on no uncertain terms would our daughter be called Eva. Brown is the only surname we have, and Eva is not something I'd feel comfortable pairing with her. As I mentioned in the comments, my wife is estranged from her family and often jokes that we got married so young, at 22, so that she could get rid of her maiden name. She agreed that our child would take our married name, but continued to stress about forgetting Eva. I also mentioned that by naming a child Eva, you'd be pressuring that child to live on for dead Eva, and that's a big burden for young shoulders. My cousin was named after a dead relative, and my grandparents often compared him to that relative, and that's not something I want for my own child. That seemed to resonate, and she admitted that pregnancy was bringing up old feelings, as she and Eva always said that they'd be pregnant together. I suggested therapy, and she started therapy last week. That's a very, very good point that I hadn't even touched on. Yeah, if you're calling someone by your best friend's dead name, someone you love so much and who obviously, if they're your best friend, had to be a great person in your eyes, that is putting a lot of pressure on your child to live up to that person. They don't have to, of course, but surely that child's going to think about that. I then talked about mine and Rose's conversation, and she was very interested. We agreed that it would be lovely giving Eva the opportunity to name a child, knowing it was something she was seemingly passionate about, and have narrowed it down between 2 of those 5 girl names. Turns out the girl had taste. Being able to discuss baby names and thinking about our daughter as her own person has been a blessing, and I can see my wife is on the mend. I think this will be the only update, and I can't wait to meet my daughter. Thank you all for your help. Now, at the time of recording, that was posted just 9 days ago, so obviously it's a little bit too soon to know if that is going to be the final update. But it seems like it will be, right? And that seems like a perfect ending. That was exactly what I was hoping the resolution would be. Something else that obviously included Eva in some way, but wasn't explicitly the name Eva Brown. That is the perfect solution. I really hope that you guys stick with it. Your wife remains happy. I don't necessarily think she needs therapy and stuff, by the way. I think she just really wants to honor her best friend and was quite adamant that she wanted Eva Brown to be the name. That's it, really. I don't know if that calls for therapy, but hey, I don't know her. Not my call. However, yeah, Eva has in effect given you a short list of names that she loves to name your child. That is beautiful. Great story. But don't worry, there's another one incoming. Now, this post comes originally from r/true off my chest. I broke up with my fiance because of his family. I don't think I can marry him because of his family. I know people will say that I'm crazy, but my gut tells me I'm right. This was supposed to be the first time I'm meeting his parents. He has 2 sisters, a mum and dad. I was excited to meet my future in-laws, but it shattered. A few days ago, I met his family. Some things about them just didn't sit right with me. His mum is very possessive about him. Like, the first thing she said when she saw me was, "So you're the lady that keeps my son busy?" I know it sounds like a joke, but she said it in a condescending tone. Throughout the entire gathering, she was trying to avoid me. She'd get irritated whenever I got closer to my fiance. She made one very mean comment when I asked her for a piece of pie she made. She said, "I will not be able to fit in my dress if I eat any more of it." She deliberately made me sit far away from him so that she could sit beside him. I knew she didn't like me, but I tolerated that. But she was way too harsh on her oldest daughter. She keeps making comments like, "When are you getting married?" and if she still can't get over Ben, her brother-in-law. The thing is that the oldest daughter, Mia, used to date Ben until he dumped her to be with the youngest sister, Jen. Oh my goodness me. Jen isn't very nice either. She was mean to Mia and kept bugging her to get a husband. Mia is 33. I don't think she needs to rush. Jen also didn't like me because she made some snide remarks about my upbringing. I grew up in an abusive household. I had to struggle a lot, whereas my fiance came from a well-to-do family. His dad didn't speak much, he didn't say anything, and he just nodded. The only normal person there was Mia because she just kept to herself, but nonetheless, I did not feel very welcome by them. I just had this gut feeling that if I get married, this will be my whole life. I'd always have to be in competition with his mother, but he is so nice and sweet. I never felt so in love with anyone like I did with him. He brings me flowers, he takes care of me, he treats me like a queen, but I do not like his family at all. I broke it off with him. He was understandably sad. He asked for a reason. I just told him I didn't feel good about our relationship, that we're not compatible. There were tears, but I left. Now I'm sitting in my aunt's house writing this. One moment I feel like calling him and telling him I had cold feet. We are perfect together. We earn well, we have similar hobbies, and we are sexually compatible, but this one thing about him just bugs me a lot. I'm heartbroken. I know I don't deserve to be because I was the one who called it off. Okay, let's get straight into the update on this one, which was actually posted on the same day that evening. I just talked to his sister Mia on the phone. It was a surprise to me that she wanted to talk. She got the news of us breaking up and asked if we could talk on the phone. I agreed. I was desperate to hear any news from him. We talked for like an hour or so. It was mostly her telling me how her family was toxic, that I made the right decision because her mum had a weird obsession with her baby boy. Also, she doesn't know why she is the black sheep of her family. She was not adopted, nor was she an affair child. She also mentioned that her mother was a bit of a racist because of where I came from. Overall, that day, she wanted to warn me. I asked why my ex doesn't treat her right. She said my ex is in delusion that they have a picture-perfect home, but he doesn't realise how toxic his mother is. She did bring it up with him, and he just said that they're family, so families shouldn't hold grudges. Honestly, I felt bad for her. She also said that she'll be going no contact with all of them. She thought she could salvage their relationship and let them be a part of her life, but she decided she doesn't want that. She also shared some personal information about her relationship status and future. But I don't want to share that. It's not my place to share it. She did though tell me to meet him and tell him the truth. He deserves to know why I don't want to be a part of his family. He needs to hear the truth. I'll be meeting him tomorrow, and yeah, as a lot of you guys requested, I will give an update. Okay, then let's get straight into it. 11 days later, we got the final update. Hello guys, I promised I would come back with an update, and I did it. I finally talked to him. I told him everything that I mentioned in the post, and also about my feelings for his family, especially how they treated Mia. Needless to say, he was upset. He tried to convince me that this was all in my head, that I shouldn't throw away our relationship because of his family. His family will accept me if I become a part of it. I tried to explain things from my own perspective, but he wasn't budging. Oh, that's not a good sign. Then the topic of Mia came up. He said it is unfair that even his sister is abandoning the family. He mentioned Mia's big news, and she said she doesn't want to be a part of their family. I told him I knew about it because I talked to Mia. That seemed to upset him even more. He's fuming that Mia shared her news to me before his family. I got angry and told him that this is exactly why I don't want to be a part of his family. Her mother made racist comments to me. I'm half Bengali. She treated me like an outsider and didn't make me feel welcome. His family is just very toxic. I grew up in one. I don't want to die in one. Maybe someday he will find a woman his mother approves of, but that woman is not me. We had a big fight. He was obviously defending his family. He was not willing to listen to what I had to say. Overall, he was very dismissive. We ended our conversation on a very bad note. I am sad about it. Aside from his family drama, he was a good guy, but I don't think I can handle his family. You don't just marry one person, you do marry their entire family. They didn't even bother to know me at all. Wow, there we go. That is the end of that one. I've got to say, very, very tough position to be in, OP. But I do think you made the right decision. And to be fair, your ex's comments there kind of confirm that that was the correct decision that you made. If he can't even understand, I get it, it's his family and obviously he loves them. But if he can't understand what you're saying, or the reason as to why his sister is abandoning the family and saying, you know what, I don't even want to talk to any of you anymore, I'm going no contact, then he is deluded. I'm sorry. He is. So I think you did make the right decision. And I also think that you're absolutely right. You do marry into the family. Now, yeah, I don't imagine that you're going to be seeing his mum all the time, and I'm sure that if you wanted to, you could probably minimize when you see her. But the truth is that you are still going to see her probably a decent amount. You know, Thanksgiving, holiday season, birthdays, barbecues, grandparents in the future, like babysitting your kid. You are going to see her a lot. And if you hate this person, and as you said, you come from a toxic family, you don't want to be in one for the rest of your life, then yeah, ultimately that is, I would say, a deal breaker. I also think that someone's family does say a lot about them. Now, obviously, if that family is terrible and they're amazing and they openly admit that their family is terrible, and that's probably why they're amazing, because they've realized how bad their family are and they just want nothing to do with them, and you know, they're a completely different person to that. That's different. But if they can't see the fact that their family has faults and bad traits and that sort of stuff, yeah, I mean, they've been part of that family their entire life. It's likely that they're going to have some of the same sort of faults. And again, I feel like OP not admitting or seeing that his family has faults is a big red flag, as I mentioned. So it's sad, and I'm sure he's a lovely guy on the whole, but is he a life partner? Do you want to marry into that family? I don't think so. I think you made the right decision. But yeah, guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Did OP make the right call? Obviously, it's hard to know without loads more context, but from that little insight that we've got there, comment down below. What do you think? Comment either on YouTube or on Spotify, whatever you're listening on. You can comment on both those platforms. Let me know, did OP make the right decision and why? Never assume someone is pregnant. Not my story, but I feel my father was definitely traumatized back. We, my dad and I, were at a grocery store checking out. Now, something about my dad, he loves babies. All babies, even the thought of babies. He is also a diagnosed narcissist and all that entails. So we're finally next, and the cashier was a little chubby in her tummy. Not a big deal, but sort of noticeable. Dad, as he had many times before, started cooing and baby talking at her, wanting to know how far along she was, etc. She looked directly at him and said, "I had a miscarriage. Today is my first day back." Guys, if a bottomless pit opened in front of my father, he'd have stepped in it without a word. I've never seen him more embarrassed. He started stammering out apologies, threw his wallet at me, and virtually ran from the store. At this point, she looked at me and said, "I didn't miscarry. I've never even been pregnant, and I'm sorry if I'm being a female dog, but I'm sick and tired of people assuming I'm pregnant and saying stuff and trying to touch me. People need to mind their own business." I never told my dad the truth, and to my knowledge, he hasn't assumed a woman was pregnant since. Oh my goodness me, so she didn't even have a miscarriage, she just wanted to mug your dad off the harshest way she could. Just so good. So good. And you can tell this has happened to her multiple times before. She's fed up. She no longer cares. And she's just like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to make you feel the same way you've just made me feel, if not actually 10 times worse. Phenomenal. Actually, I've just seen that OP has left this little edit as well at the bottom of the post. It's been brought to my attention that this little detail adds a lot of context. Before this incident, my dad had women say to him that they weren't pregnant, and one even said she was just fat. But my dad would double down and start questioning and shaming their diet and eating habits. The entitlement of a narcissist is a thing to behold. Sounds to me like this has been coming for your dad for a while now, and he richly deserved it. Let's carry on. Now guys, before we get into the second traumatized and backstory of this episode, I firstly want to quickly answer one of the most requested questions I've ever had on my channel in the 5 years now that I've been making Reddit videos. The question is, which background music do you use? You guys have always absolutely loved the music I use in these episodes. So much so that in an episode I did the other day where there was no music, the comments were full of people saying, yeah, great stories, love the content, but we missed the background music. Where is it? So what I've done is I've created a playlist of my most memorable, consistent, my most favorite songs that I've ever used on this channel in the background for you to listen to. That is linked down below in the description and the pinned comment for you to check out whenever you like. All the music that I've ever used has come from the same place, which is a website called Epidemic Sound. It's really great for creators like me because all their stuff is royalty free, which means that you don't get copyright strikes if you use it on YouTube or wherever you create your content and post it. it. I would thoroughly recommend it, by the way, to anyone out there who is also creating content, whether you're a big YouTuber or, you know, just posting random TikToks or whatever you're doing. It's a very good website and you'll always be 100% safe with them. Or if you just like listening to the music that I like listening to and use in my episodes. For full transparency, if you do click on my link and then go on to sign up to Epidemic Sound, if you like, I do get a tiny kickback, which will of course obviously go straight back into the channel. But the main point of this is just so you guys can listen on your own, in your own free time, to the exact songs that I've used for the past 5 years on this channel. I've spent a long time making that playlist. It's got a lot of songs in it, and you'll recognize a lot of them if you've been around here for a while. So yeah, if you want to, get down in the description or the pinned comment, click the link, check it out. Now, let's get back to the second story. Now moving on to our next Traumatized Then Back post. Made my mum cry because she believed my crazy grandma. So, in short, for some context, I was raised in a cult of the godly flavour, and my mum was a bit more lax about some things, but not a lot. For some context, things like Sailor Moon and Pokemon weren't allowed because they didn't say their abilities came from God, and there's only one other that could grant such things, and that's Satan. But Disney was fine. Now, on to the main event. I was about 6 or 7 years old and obsessed with unicorns. Posters, books, clothes, glow-in-the-dark stars, and a fantasy type set that showed unicorns, magical castles, and so on, figurines, you name it, I was about that life. Well, one day, my legit insane grandmother, my mum's mum, who was generally under the idea I was evil and demonic and wasn't ashamed to announce it, convinced my mum that all that unicorn stuff fell under the same satanic umbrella as Sailor Moon and Pokemon, that I didn't need the influence, and she talked her into getting rid of all of it. This conversation took place before I even woke up that day, and I woke up to my mum telling me to get dressed because grandma was coming over to help with some much needed cleaning, and she explained what was happening. I, of course, broke down and begged her not to, but she basically waved me off, told me to save it and get dressed. I did, and I tried to hide a few things, and only one small plastic toy wasn't found, but I got dressed, and by then my grandma had shown up. Everything was cut up, smashed, burned, and they made me do all of it as they searched my room with military precision. I had to destroy my own clothes, burn my books and posters, and smash any of my figurines, but it all ended up in a literal dumpster fire. Of course, this hit me like a truck, and I was sobbing through the whole thing, and they were just tutting me, saying I was upset because I was still in Satan's grasp. Sorry, I have to intervene here, guys. This is the most insane thing that I've ever heard happen to a child pretty much ever. I mean, within reason, of course, but you're making your own child smash up her toys. What? There even was a fight over the glow-in-the-dark stars when the glow-in-the-dark magical fantasy ones were being assessed as evil or not. The fantasy ones lost, and my dad came home while we fought about the stars because I refused to budge. Dad took one look at everything, said the stars stay, and ordered this whole ordeal over. Sadly, he was too late to save anything except the stars, but he was livid. For some extra context, my dad was not about the cult life or ideas, but let some slide for a few reasons. Mostly because they'd pull this type of stuff while he was at work, and as the man of the house, cult rules said his word was law, and he weaponized the frick out of that when they'd do this. Otherwise, he was a very laid-back and loving father and rarely got mad. So when he did, it was a big deal. A week of switching between crying and disassociation on my end, and my dad's anger at my mum and grandma, my mum finally realised that she'd done goofed on this one, and got me a few small unicorn things. We weren't rich, but she wanted to try and make it right somehow. She gave me them when she apologised profusely for what she'd done and allowed. All I did was look but not touch the items. Then I looked at her, shrugged apathetically as I was still messed up over it, and said, "I don't want these anymore." My mum started to cry, apologised again, which earned her another apathetic shrug, and I looked at her with the 1,000-yard stare and said, "It doesn't matter anymore because it's too late," and I walked away to my room. My mum cried for a month and would later try to get me back into unicorns, but it never worked. She still gets upset to this day, 30 years later, when it's brought up. Yeah, maybe don't listen to your mum that you know is insane, and we wouldn't be here, mother. Yeah, I mean, just terrible parenting. Why would you do that? Like, why? First of all, I get it, right? Your own mum is influencing you this much to do this sort of thing. Obviously, it's not ideal, and it's probably quite tough. But like, grow a backbone and think to yourself, what I'm actually doing here, making my own child destroy things because my mum thinks that she's the devil. Oh, hang on. Maybe I'm just actually stupid. How about that? Maybe destroy your own things, you absolute clown. Now, I will just say, that's quite a strong response from me there, but I feel like it's valid. OP has left a little note on the end of this one, which I do want to read out because it does provide some context. So, one thing I'd like to note as it keeps coming up is what OP says. She just found this sub today. The memory of this came to mind. Now, while there's no excuse for what my mother was like, please do know that the mum I wrote about and the mum I have now are two different people. Remember, this is 30 years ago. She's still a bit odd, but not abusive anymore, and we have a really good relationship now. I have other stories to share and will, but please keep in mind that while my mother did her fair bit on her own, a lot of what was done to me was by the women in my family, who my grandmother convinced I was evil and satanic and so on, which my mother never stood for and offended me for it. I have a full understanding of the trauma cycle and where it began, how and why, and I understand why my mother was the way she was. It doesn't make it okay at all in any way, but as previously stated, she is no longer that person, nor do I blame or hold anything against her anymore. The past is the past, and her and I are different people. And while she still carries the guilt of what she said, she isn't that person anymore. And while I can recognize what issues arose in me from her actions, things are very different now. I finally feel like I have a mum, and I'm thankful to be healing and moving on from the past. Okay, that's obviously good, right? But I don't think for 1 second it excuses what I've just read. Great, you made some mistakes. Oh, I realized I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I want to be a good mum now. All right, how about the fact that you obviously caused trauma to your child by telling her and forcing her to smash things up because your crazy lunatic mother said your daughter, my granddaughter, is satanic. Oh, what? I made a mistake. You don't say. Surely any reasonable person would have realized at the time. Now, this is why cults are an absolute disgrace, obviously. Like, what do you think? Comment down below. Get in the comments. Does the mum deserve a little bit of, like, compassion and remorse? I don't think she does. I think she's just stupid and is using her own mum and this stupid cult you're all in as some little excuse as to why she abused her own daughter. Now, maybe that's a bit harsh, but that is me being completely honest. What do you think? Let's carry on. You think you'd love to be catcalled? Okay, sure. About 10 years ago, my friend and I, both 22-year-old women at the time, joined a group of friends at a bar after we both got off work. The group had already been drinking and we were all standing outside for a smoke. Our one friend, Tom, a 22-year-old male, made an offhand comment about how women shouldn't be so upset when guys try to hit on them and that he would love for a woman to be that aggressive towards him. A few people laughed. Some tried to reason. I was immediately furious. I called him out on it and bet him that by the end of the night, he would be begging me to quit. He quickly took me up on the offer, laughing that there was no way he would ever tell a woman to stop. So, we shook hands and I started in on him. What I didn't expect was my female friend to join in on the subtle comments. We called him sweetheart, told him how his biceps looked good but better with no shirt on, etc. for the majority of the night. He initially found it hilarious and played along, but it started to wear on him. The other two guys tried to get him to call it quits and started hassling us for being creeps, but Tom kept saying it wasn't that bad, although the joke's getting old, guys. By the end of the night, another female friend showed up to collect her drunk boyfriend, and we filled her in on what was happening while we were across the street from the guys. Suddenly, it became a barrage of catcalling from the three of us. We rejoined the group of guys a few minutes later, when Tom finally called it quits because he started to feel like every woman he walked past was going to join in on what we were doing. The look of shock on those guys' faces when the three of us explained that that feeling is exactly how women feel will never leave me. Plus, my friend dug at the other guys for not showing that same energy when one of us were being hassled. Okay, now this post is just absolutely ridiculous from the start to the end, I have to say. Now, I don't know if you know this, guys, but I actually am a man. And I know full well how annoying and just horrible and abusive and harassment-y being catcalled continuously is. I don't know that because it's happened to me loads. I don't know that even because I've spoken to my friends who are girls who have had that happen to me. I know it because it's obvious. It's just obvious common sense. Who would like this? Obviously nobody likes this. The fact that this Tom brother has just said, nah, you know what, I'd like this. And all the guys are like, well, it can't be that bad. It just shows that they're all clowns. If this is a kind of like constant throughout young men in society, then it is a disgrace. But I do feel like the majority of people are not like Tom and your other guy friends and understand that nobody actually likes being catcalled and it is disgraceful. And I agree with your last point, by the way, and your friends as well, saying to the guys, well, why don't you do this to us? Why don't you care when this happens to us? You just care because Tom's now getting annoyed because he asked for it and he's finally understanding the effects and how horrible it can be. Terrible. I don't know if this says a lot about guys in general. Maybe it does. I hope it doesn't, and I hope it's just a bad group of lads and a bad friendship group that you probably shouldn't be mates with. Just weird guys in general. I mean, to be fair, the one good thing is that they surely at least now know, so they've learned. I think that is a good thing. So there is possibly a positive outlook from all of this, but I also just can't get away from the initial fact, which I first said, which was, how did Tom not know this in the first place? Either he's an idiot or he's an idiot. You decide. Okay, then let's move on to post number 4. Apologies if I'm getting a little bit ranty in this one, guys, but it's just what's coming out of me. Woman rudely tells me to get plastic surgery. I tell her, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. When my son was born, he was a large baby. He weighed 10 pounds, was 24 inches long, and had a 15-inch head. Needless to say, I had a lot of stretch marks. Following my son's birth, I had health problems, and it took years of hard work for me to lose the weight and get rip-roaringly fit again. I left my cheating ex and started dating my now husband when my son was 5. My new boyfriend took me to Miami for a short vacation, and after working hard for my six-pack, I decided that despite my insecurities, I would finally wear a bikini. We were relaxing, drinking, and enjoying the atmosphere of Nikki Beach in South Beach, and I was having a fantastic time. That is, until I went to the restroom. In the ladies' room, a woman I'd never met, never seen, and certainly never spoken to, came up to me and rudely said, "You know, they have plastic surgery for all that now, you know," while gesturing to my lower stomach/abdomen area. I was speechless, and she mistakenly thought that my silence was either approval for her to continue or that I hadn't heard her, so she said it again, but this time added that you really shouldn't go out in public like that because not everyone wants to see that. Ooh. After I recovered from shock, I forced myself to burst into hysterical tears. She looked stunned and said, "I'm sorry, didn't know you looked that bad." And I replied, "It's not that. I have 7 children, and my baby, who gave me these stretch marks, just died 3 months ago." And I continued to sob. Her face was twisted in horror, and her 2 friends who had been standing by trying to ignore her told her she was a complete female dog, comforted me, and they left the area entirely. I hope she learned her lesson. I think the thing that I'm realizing in a lot of these r/traumatized and back posts is that they all, or at least the majority of them, seem to involve someone saying something to someone else, which they just don't need to say at all. And it's just completely unnecessary, not thought through, whether it's a stranger, like in this story, whether it's your friend or whatever, and you're just saying something that is completely illogical. Why are there so many people like this that just say dumb things? I don't know. But like with this story, if you saw another woman wearing a bikini and you see she has stretch marks, first of all, why would you say anything? Second of all, if you're going to say anything, surely say something positive. And thirdly, why would you say, "Oh my god, you look disgusting," to a randomer? It's just like the most horrible thing you can do. So weird. And yeah, once again, I'm really happy that you completely lied to her face, by the way. And guys, let me know how you feel about this. Do you think, we've seen it twice now in this episode, that inferring that a child of yours has died to traumatize someone back is valid? Is that too far? Or is it good karma, like we saw here again? Or is it a little bit too far? I'm not sure. I think it's completely fine, to be honest, given that these people need to be taught a lesson. But it's just why? I just do not understand why. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that down below. Is it a little bit too far, or is it alright? Showing a girl her privilege. I grew up incredibly poor and ended up being a high achiever. I went through my undergrad/masters and started my doctorate by having full-time jobs on the side and getting full scholarships and assistantship stipends. I would always get into top universities, but I'd end up going to the less impressive ones that would give me more money to be there. I took some time off school in the middle of my doctorate to care for my dying parents. I ended up dropping out and I cared for them for years. This year, they both died and left me some money. Not a lot, but more than I've ever had in my whole life. Before they died, I ended up applying for and getting into one of the top schools in the country for my field, and I got the biggest scholarship they offer. But the cost of living was too expensive still, so I was going to have to turn it down. When my parents suddenly passed and this money appeared though, I chose to use the money to finish my education and focus on school for the next few years without needing a side job for the first time. My mum's dying wish was that I could afford the education I deserve. I just started 2 weeks ago, and most of my cohort are these incredibly privileged rich kids who are fresh out of their expensive fancy undergrads, living off of their parents' money in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Like, they have apartments whose rents are $2,000 plus a month, they have no job, no scholarship, and then they complain about being poor. I was talking to a group of them during orientation, and one 22-year-old girl started making weird passive-aggressive comments about how I'm in my early 30s and started making digs on me about how I'm an older woman. I laughed her comments off, but her weird jokes about my age continued to happen. Later in the conversation, when we were talking about how we got into school, I looked straight at her and said, I've gotten into this school multiple times before actually, but I could never afford to accept the offer because I was too poor. So I started my doctorate elsewhere. But both of my parents actually got sick and I left to care for them for over 3 years while working another full-time job unrelated to my field to get by and support my family. They both died 6 months ago and I got a full ride scholarship, and it was their dying wish that I use the money they left me to go to the school to finish my education. Her face completely dropped and she stopped mentioning my age after that. Yeah, just instantly shut down. Phenomenal stuff. Once again, someone saying something to a stranger that they don't need to say. Like, you don't know anything about this person. Why are you assuming all these things? And also, it's not abnormal for someone over the age of 25 or whatever, or in their 30s, to go to university. It's a very normal thing. And yeah, why assume that someone didn't go when they were 22 or hasn't been at the age of 30? Well, who cares? Like, who cares? Again, I hope the girl remembers what you said, because that at least is a positive coming out of this. You've put in all this work, dealt with so much, for someone just to say to you, oh, you're too old to be at this uni. What are you doing here? Nah, screw that. Let her know. And you did. Good stuff. Okay, doc, if you don't care about an open door, then I don't care about covering my boobs. I went in for my annual exam, and the nurse gives me the dreaded gown with specific instructions to strip down to nothing and put on the paper robe open to the front. Just getting up on the table in this garment was stressful. It was tiny and delicate. I could feel it tearing with the slightest pressure. But I did it, and I awkwardly held it closed as I sat on the edge of the table, barely covered, waiting for the doctor. Please don't imagine this as sexy in any way. My doctor is a very, very, very old lady, and I'm describing my semi-nakedness because it was an embarrassing and actually physically challenging task to keep the robe sufficiently closed so as not to be exposed. She bustles in all aflutter, door swinging wide open to the hall in open view of the office staff and an open exam room where another patient was waiting, fully clothed. We locked eyes for a moment. It was weird, but I took a deep breath and got over it. We get on with the exam. We realize she doesn't have all of my results. Did a blood draw the week prior. So out she goes, this time holding the door open as she yells at her staff to get her the results. Now, I'm not upset at being naked in front of healthcare professionals, but there's no need for the office staff to see me naked. Plus, the other patient is still right there. Hi, I'm naked. We get the results. Moving on. But then a knock at the door, and she opens that mother frickin' door wide open again about some BS, and I silently snapped. I'm only willing to struggle to keep my nakedness unexposed for so long, and if you don't care about exposing my naked flesh to the office and everyone in it, then neither do I. So I relaxed, my fingers unclenched, I sat comfortably, and I allowed the gown to give way. My boobs were fully out, and I didn't give a dang. It was the first and hopefully only time I exposed myself as a way of saying F you. It was liberating. And suddenly the doctor was able to keep the door shut and wrap things up. Wow, this is might be my favorite one so far. Really, really good. And before I even get into my thoughts on this one, Opie has added this at the bottom, saying, to the folks who were telling me I was wrong to use my boobs and not my words, I have words for you. F you. Did you forget what sub you're on? It's r/traumatized them back, not r/resolving problems with calm, logical discussion. I rebuke your judgment. I'm proud of my actions. And I'm proud of you, OP. I'm proud of you. And also, I love that little paragraph there. Phenomenal scenes once again. It is also just very weird from this doctor. Usually they're very, very sensitive with your body and your privacy. Like, I mean, the doctors that I would go to would always ask permission before they, before you remove your clothes or even before they touch you in any way, really. And the door would obviously be closed. This just sounds like an awful practice, to be honest. But yeah, nonetheless, you handled it very, very well. And I respect your bravery. Now for our final story of this episode. A co-worker put me on the spot when she saw scars from a past car accident. When I was 17 years old, I was in a very serious car accident that nearly killed me. One of my tires blew while I was driving 50 miles an hour. The speed limit was 55 miles an hour on my way to school one morning, and my car flipped several times off the road. My seatbelt saved my life, and the fact that I put both arms over my head as my car was flipping saved my face and head from severe damage. As a result, however, the skin on my left forearm was nearly torn off from my fingers to my elbow, leaving me with significant scarring. The doctors at one point had suggested plastic surgery, but my family couldn't afford it. I also wanted to see about other options. Luckily, my wounds healed a bit over time on their own with consistent care and some physical therapy. Within a few years, the scars were still visible, but not nearly as grotesque as before. I still felt self-conscious, but people asking me about them was very rare, and if it did happen, it came from a concerned place and was spoken quietly and with respect. As stated earlier, however, I still felt very insecure about them and would often wear sleeves long enough to cover them, even in hot weather. Fast forward a few years later. I was an undergrad at university and was working at the library on campus. One of my co-workers, we'll call her Christine, was the kind of person who would intentionally bring down anyone around her. She was also a bit older than most of us, a non-traditional student as defined by our university, and would frequently complain about how much she hated anyone under 40. Despite this, I tried to brush off her comments, not let her get to me, and stick to the work at hand. One day at work, we were very busy and had to do a lot of multitasking. I was reaching up to grab something and my sleeve rode up. Christine made this disgusted gasp, like an "ah!" and shouted, "Ooh, gross! What the heck did you do to yourself? Your arm is disgusting!" Being put on the spot like that made me want to disappear. But since I couldn't, I took a breath, looked her square in the eye and replied, "Oh, my arm? I was in a car accident that nearly killed me, and these scars were from all of the glass and debris." And because I was much younger, about 21, and could be petty and passive-aggressive, I added, "But thank you for pointing that out. It's nice to be reminded of one of the scariest moments of my life while at work." Christine turned pale and just kind of stood there. Our co-workers stared at her in horror and disgust. The students nearby glared at her and called her a female dog, and I went about my workday. Christine never spoke to me again. She ended up quitting a short time later, the details of which I'm unaware. But I often wonder if our interaction that day had anything to do with it. And there we go. Once again, a relative stranger or colleague or whatever, but someone that you clearly don't know very well is just saying horrible things to you for no reason. I guess it just says a lot more about them than it does you. I mean, obviously it does. But saying, "What the heck did you do to yourself? Your arm is disgusting." Again, why would you ever say that? To be honest, the more of these stories that I'm reading, the more I'm realizing that it is just because these people are so insecure about their own lives and probably hate themselves so much that they have to make up or try and make others feel bad about themselves. That is what's going on here, realistically. But yeah, I hope she left because she realized, oh my goodness me, I was so horrible. I've had a moment of enlightenment and I need to get out of here and reset my life. I kind of feel like that didn't happen because she's probably just a horrible person. But yeah, she's also over 40. You would have thought by that age, you might have clocked that you're not a very nice person. I don't know. See you later, Christine. F off. Parents who are in their 40s treated me, a 21-year-old woman, very badly, and I cut them off. Now they want a new beginning. It's an absolute epic of a story, guys. If you're ready for it, make sure to drop a like on this one. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Also, this is going to be a bit more of a laid-back episode, so make sure you grab a drink. I've got a coffee here. It's going to be chilled. And yeah, We're gonna get through this, and it's gonna be amazing. Now, I will just say that I haven't read this story. I've skimmed it just to make sure it's good enough for you guys, but I don't know exactly what is gonna happen, which makes it more fun because you're gonna react to this at the same time I do, pretty much. So without further ado, here we go. A little trigger warning to start from OP. Child neglect, favoritism, golden child syndrome. Not ideal, fair enough. And a mood spoiler as well. The Lion, the Witch, and you know what? No, just eject them into the sun. Right, here we go. Again, July 16th, 2015 is when this was originally posted. Sorry if this is long, OP says. I have a non-identical twin sister. The two of us couldn't be any more different. She is lucky enough to be very beautiful and tall and very good looking. She's always ticked every box on her looks. I wasn't so lucky. I wasn't on the beautiful side, and I was shorter. Right now, I'm 5'1", and she is 5'8". She was also better at making friends and being sociable, while I was always her awkward sister. Now, I know I'm on the autism spectrum, but I was only diagnosed 2 years ago. Parents never bothered with that. Now you know you're on the autism spectrum. Wow, your parents never bothered? I mean, that is tragic. Anyway, none of this makes my parents horrible, says OP. I mean, I beg to differ, but fair enough. What makes them horrible is the way they treated me and my sister. They always treated her like she is an angel and treated me like I'm a loser. This goes back as early as when we were 3 and 4 years old. For each 20 picture that they have of her childhood, for each 20 pictures, they have maybe 2 or 3 of mine. Literally, they have over 10 times as many pictures of her, and most of mine are of both of us. She would always get a lot of attention from everyone, and I got none. My parents spent much more money on her too. Say if they wanted to spend $100 on clothes, 80 would go to her, and 20 would go to me. Their reasoning has always been that she's more beautiful, and it's worth spending more on her, as she gets a lot more attention, while nobody looks at me anyway, so why bother with better clothes? They've literally told me that many times. Imagine your own parents telling you that. How's that going to make a kid feel? Goodness me. I was in a sports team. They never once came to see me playing, while they go and see my sister cheerleading every week. Extend this to everything, and you know the story of my life. I hated every second of my childhood. I hated my sister. Yes, I know that none of this was actually her fault. I worked on myself with a therapist, so I no longer feel any hate or blame towards her. To be fair, I do not blame you for that. You're obviously going to hate her, even though it's not her fault. I mean, you want everything she has. You want the attention of your parents, which you're not getting. You're going to be extremely jealous. That's so fine. OP says, since I was 15, I was counting the days until I'd become 18 and could leave and never come back. And that is what I did. That is the age which you can leave home without parents' consent where we live. I left home the day after my 18th birthday. The night before, my parents threw a birthday party for us. Well, for her. Their gift for her was a $1,000 gift card from a luxury designer brand. Goodness me. Now for me, wow, I got a $100 gift card for a bookstore. What? They argued that this $100 gives me the same level of ability to buy the things I like, books, as that $1,000 would to her, expensive clothes. Okay, their logic. They knew I was thinking of leaving, but they had no idea I wanted out ASAP. I left that day. They asked me to stay and allow them to help out, but I was like, I've had enough of you. Leave me alone. And I'm not surprised. I think as tough as that is, I'd have to do that as well. I mean, nobody wants to be forced out or have to leave their house as soon as they illegally can because their parents are so awful. But in this situation, what is the alternative? Your sister is getting 10 times the amount of money as you for your same 18th birthday. Absolutely insane. And the logic is just so dumb. Anyway, I never made any contact with them after that. As soon as I was able to, I moved to another city to get even further away, as I hated that city too. They called and texted me for a while, but I never answered or replied, and I changed my number eventually. I also removed them from all my social media. I set it so that if they sent me any emails, it would automatically get deleted, and a reply would come as this: automatically deleted, do not waste your time, and that would be sent to them. That is the current status of things on my side. Okay, there we go. It's a pretty tough upbringing, isn't it? To have this. And yeah, what are you supposed to do? I think you've done everything you can do. It's horrible, but I mean, your parents are a disgrace. They're an absolute disgrace. Now, I will say that obviously this is gonna I don't want to say exaggerate or get a lot worse, but I will say that having had a little skim, what is to come is genuinely mind-blowing from these parents. Like, you think they're bad now, guys? Have some patience. They are awful. Let's carry on. 2 days ago, my dad sent me a message on Facebook. My initial instinct was to delete it, but I opened it and I started reading. This was the first message in months from them. He explained that he understands that they were not good parents and they did a lot of wrong, but maybe we can start over. He asked if I can come over for dinner at some point so all of us can get to know the new each other better. I haven't responded. I don't know if I should give them another chance or just delete this message and don't look back. That is a conundrum. And not one that I'd want to be in. Because, again, as I say a lot of the time in stories like this, no matter what's happened before, these guys will always be your family. And for that reason, I think just biologically, you're going to want to, have them in your life. But is that the right thing to do? I honestly say probably not. Right, let's get into some relevant comments. Lordika, a commenter down below on the original post, said this. What do you want? Do you long for a repaired relationship with them, or are you happier with them out of your life? Great question. You might explore your options with a therapist. Remember, if you aren't ready now, you can always respond with a maybe later, I'll be in touch. Very, very sound advice there from Lordika. OP replied, I wanted a good relationship with them for many, many years. When I was growing up, every night I prayed for them to become nicer to me and like me for who I am. But that was 3 years ago, and my world is much bigger now. I'm thinking of talking to my therapist about this. How sad is that? I mean, jeez. Then somebody else said, my first thought is maybe your sister needs a kidney. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember. Those of you that have been around for a long time on my channel may remember. I think I'm right in saying I read a very similar story to that in which someone actually did, after years, get in contact with a family member, acting all nice. And it actually was because they needed a kidney transplant. And I can't remember if it was a brother or a dad or son, but they were obviously the best match. Unbelievable. But yeah, OP says, to be honest, that came to my mind at first when I was reading the message. That's tough. I mean, so tough. And then someone else said, did you not have grandparents or aunts and uncles who tried to tell them that they were being unfair? I have 3 daughters. And while I have probably done birthdays where I didn't spend the same on them, they at least got what they asked for. Parents aren't perfect people, but my gosh, your parents need a kick in the pants. I do think that is something that you learn as you grow older, that your parents are also humans. Like, I'm at the age now, 25, where I could feasibly be a dad. And I look at myself and I think, goodness me, some of the mistakes I'd probably make would be catastrophic. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't do things like this, guys. Cut me a little bit of slack. This is actually disgraceful, as I've said. But yeah, I mean, this commenter is right. Parents are just people. They do make mistakes. But this is not good. This is a bit too far. OP replied, oh my goodness me, this is so sad. They were all in on it. What? Grandparents, aunt, uncles, everyone adored her and were at best indifferent to me? I remember my grandfather telling me to learn from my sister to be a nice and popular girl that everybody loves. I was maybe 12. I'm going to have a drink. What? What is wrong with this family? I mean, what is wrong with people? I can only imagine how horrible having a family like this would be. In fact, I can't even really imagine it. I actually can't. How is that? I was expecting there OP to reply and say, yeah, look, my parents are bad and the rest of my family tried to tell them how bad they were being, but they just couldn't get through to them. And ultimately, I lived with them and there was nothing I could do. I could go and visit my grandparents, my aunt, my uncle, whatever, and it was nice and they'd give me stuff and be kind to me. But no, everyone in this person's family is just a jerk. Or worse than that. I mean, this is like bordering on abusive, isn't it? There's got to be some form of emotional abuse. Maybe the trigger warning was fair enough after all. All right, so that is it for the initial post. But on July 23rd, 2015, again, almost 9 years ago now, we got this update. Thank you for your comments and suggestions, OP said. They were super helpful and helped me see things a lot more clearly. Love you all. This is a big update, and it's something quite shocking. I've got to go back to my therapist. This is what I said earlier, guys. What you're about to hear will genuinely blow you away, and not in a good way. Is that a thing? Getting negatively blown away? Who knows? But if it is, you're about to be. Before I get to it, a lot of you asked about my relationship with my sister. Well, there's no relationship really. I spent all of my childhood hating her and never really had a nice relationship with her. She was not like my parents, but they had spoiled the heck out of her, and she sort of always saw herself as the better one of the two of us. Not surprised there, and right now I don't even blame her for that. Yeah, you know what, I agree. It's literally what I was about to say. I would see myself as better than my sibling as well, probably for a large portion of my life. If everyone was doting on me more than them, I'd say there's got to be a reason for it. Remember, your sister's just a kid here. She doesn't know what's going on. However, OP says, on the day that I was leaving, I gave her a hug and told her that maybe if we had different parents, we could have really been sisters. But it's not how it turned out in this life. Maybe we can make up for it later ourselves. I told her that if she wants to talk to me about this, she can call me and we can meet up. She never called me. You know what? I don't really think that surprises me. But I have to say, massive respect, OP, for being that courteous and selfless to not massively blame her. I'm probably not sure I could. As it appeared from the last post, I went to talk to my therapist about this, and she suggested that I can initiate some conversation and see how it goes. Based on her assessment, she was happy if I wanted to go and see them. I just need to understand that there is no obligation to go or stay. Good. OP replied to their father's message with the following. Hi, Dad. For us to ever have a chance of seriously starting over, you owe me an answer. Why? Now, I expect an honest answer, OP says. No, why what? No, come and let's talk in person or anything of that sort. Just give it to me straight. Believe me, I can handle reading it if you can handle doing it. If you're not willing to give me that, then I'm not willing to start over. He came back to me the next day with a long message explaining why. Let's get right to it. Now this is the part that I've been talking about the entire time. This is going to shock you. My dad told me that him and my mum wanted a child, and only one child, as they didn't have the resources and energy of having more than one. They realised that we're twins. That screwed up everything and actually made them sad rather than happy. Brutal. They decided to give one of us up for adoption. They looked around and even found a couple. In case you wondered, I was the one they decided to give away because I was smaller and my eyes weren't blue. Yeah, that is how you decide which one of your kids to keep. They arranged everything, even took me to go and see them, I presume the couple, yes, but that couple bailed out before signing the papers when they saw me and my sister. Their conscience couldn't handle separating twin sisters like this. After this, they looked for, actually, I was a bit surprised there. Some sane people, apart from OP in this story. Took me back there. But yeah, obviously they couldn't handle separating twin sisters. Who would do that? I mean, nobody would do that at that age, apart from, for some reason in this story, their actual parents. Ridiculous. After this, my parents looked for some couples and nobody seemed willing to adopt one of two twin sisters. I wonder why. They entertained the idea of putting me into foster care, but they couldn't live with themselves if they did. What, so they can live with putting you up for adoption, but you're not allowed to go to foster care? Okay. I think that says a lot. Stranger couples who so badly wanted to adopt a child couldn't be heartless enough to separate twin sisters, but their frickin' parents wanted to do it. It's beyond me. Exactly. So they had to raise me themselves, and they didn't enjoy it at all. In their minds, the fact that they didn't put me into foster care was a favour in itself. Right, okay. More than what I apparently deserved. And that is why they never cared to do more for me. Their full time and resources belonged to my sister, and the small part of it that got to me, they saw it as me taking what's my sister's away. That is how they saw me. No wonder my childhood turned out the way It did. I just can't believe what I'm reading. My dad said that deep inside, they always knew what they were doing was wrong. Okay. But they could never step up and do the right thing during this 18 years. Why not? Well, they thought that changing the dynamic would negatively affect my sister, as she's now used to being offered more time and resources, and I'm used to not getting it. So making it more equal would be a luxury for me and a pain for her. They thought that's not fair for my sister to be in pain for the sake of my luxury. Again, their logic. I don't even know what to say to that. Me neither. Again, just absolutely bamboozling and just so stupid. Let's get an IQ test done on these guys, by the way. I mean, what are we thinking? Comment down below. I'm going to go for like 6 or 7 maximum. Maybe 5. It's got to be around that sort of number. Ever since I left, mum and dad are having trouble. My sister is off to college and they're alone now with all the time in the world to think about what they did. They've been to marriage counselling, and according to him, that has helped them see everything clearly now and see how cruel they were to me. Well done, guys. Oh, I just knocked over my deodorant. But anyway, well done, guys. You needed marriage counselling to tell you you're abusing your child. Idiots. Confirmed. He says they want to start over and make up for all of it if I'm prepared to allow them. I don't think you should, OP. I think this is getting ridiculous. This is quite shocking for me. This explains a lot about why my childhood turned out the way it did. I'm going to be honest. I wish they'd given me away for adoption. I really do. I could have been with adoptive parents who really wanted me, rather than with my biological parents who never did. I still don't believe that they have changed, though. This can be the result of my sister, their golden child, being away and not spending as much time with them, and then trying to replace her with me. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm sure that is what's going on here. I don't want to do that at all, but I don't know. I've got to talk to my therapist. So, guys, please give me your opinions again. You guys, so useful to me last time. Your help means a lot. Right. That's it. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's have a look at some of the comments down below. I'm going to sort this by top, so that these are the most upvoted comments down below. And this is the sad part about this entire story. This was posted just a day ago on this subreddit. What subreddit was originally posted on, I'm not actually sure. But you know what, let's find out. Let's find out. What subreddit was it originally posted on? r/relationships. Not surprising. That is why it's in the title of this episode. But yeah, as you can see, if you're watching this, 9 years ago, and brutally sadly, there's somehow not an update to this. This commenter has said, there's no way this is over. There'll be more. Then sees the date, July 2015. No, I need to know how it went. And yeah, I agree. Bringing this to best of Redditor updates now is so cruel. 8 years have passed. 8 years ago. Someone else has said, it says something about the parents that they wanted to give her up and thought she was stealing from her sister just by existing. It says more, though, that they didn't feel bad about it until 20 years later when they had nothing to do but think. And again, the only way, for some weird reason, that this kind of, I don't know, that they understood what had been going on was by going to a therapist. I mean, how is that possible? I just don't really know what's gone on here. It shows that they shouldn't have been raising any kids. I agree with that. Kids having a fair list of opportunities, love, care, resources would never be taken away from the other siblings. I agree. I dread to think how these people would have treated the original poster if she required more care than a usual child. Oh my goodness me, great point. They sounded more than happy to keep just letting the poor kid suffer while seeing her sister get 90% or more than her, and every adult in her life acts like that's normal. I really hope she told them off and didn't go back to them. They don't deserve it. And I agree. But sadly, guys, again, as the first commenter said, we don't know. We don't know, which is just such a shame. I guess, like, maybe you could argue that is one of the bad things sometimes about this subreddit. I mean, the reason I like it so much is that you often have, conclusions to stories. The stories are finished and you're not left wondering what happened next. But on this one, you are. I don't know. Get in the comments down below. What do you think? What do you think happened? What do you hope OP did? What do you think OP did? Because who knows? They might be different answers. I hope they're not. And I just hope that yeah, OP understood, and I feel like she was getting there, that, you know, maybe it really is just because my sister has left the house now and they're left wanting some attention from one of their daughters. I don't know. They'd obviously rather it be your sister, but, you know, you're about, let's get in contact with her, fill the void for a few years before hopefully our other favorite golden child comes back. I don't know if she's gone to college or whatever, but yeah, crazy, crazy scenes. And that is going to do it for this episode. Oh no, wait. Got ya. It's not funny. But I do have another story for you. I do have another story. And this one, let me tell you, you thought the last one was crazy? Well, this one is probably less crazy. But no, this one actually is more crazy. And yeah, these trigger warnings on this one, I will say, listen to them because they are legit. Right. Am I the jerk for not telling my boyfriend I won money 15 years ago? Pretty innocent title, I would say. But just wait. Just wait for this one. Trigger warning. Discussion of feces. Mention of blood. Again, I've scanned this one quickly. This does happen. It's not that bad, though. I wouldn't be triggered by it. But again, just word of warning. Mood spoiler. OP, the person that's posted this on r/best of has said, I'm borrowing the original poster's lines here. I've never dated crazy before, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked at his insanity. Now, while the first post in this episode came from July 2020, oh, what was it, 2015, this one is February 1st, 2024. So what, just a month ago at the time of recording. I don't know what I did wrong, or if what I did is wrong and I need some advice. I didn't want to post this on my real account because I'd like to be as anonymous as possible. My boyfriend, who is 35, and I, a 35-year-old woman, were discussing finances as we wanted to be on the same page. My boyfriend moved in with me unexpectedly 3 months ago, as his landlord decided to move into the property with his family. We were discussing finances, and the topic of how I own my place came up. Oh, and I have just clicked on some weird things. And if, by the way, if you do want to see what I look for on Reddit, let's actually have a look. There you go. Fantasy football, pro-revenge, nuclear revenge. These are my favorite things to look up. A little bit of a tidbit of information there about me and what I use Reddit for when I'm just chilling and not reading stories. Although it looks like I'm still reading stories, to be honest. That is what I do a lot. Anyway, where were we? We were discussing finances and the topic of how I own my place came up. I explained that I won some money. Not a lot, but enough to be able to put myself through nursing school, purchase my home, and have some savings back in 2009. And I bought my place outright and then rented it out until I moved back into it in late 2018. Obviously, I had some luck on my side as this was right in the middle of the recession, so I got my place for real cheap. He says I deceived him by giving him the impression that I was financially well off and that I led him to believe I was more business savvy than I was. Okay, how has he jumped to that conclusion? Unless I'm missing something, you won money, right? Again, not a lot. And you bought a cheap home and you went to school. Like, okay, I don't know exactly how much money that is roughly going to be. Probably is a decent amount, to be fair. But apparently that means that you've deceived him? I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. Anyway, let's carry on. I don't know how I did that, OP says, because I literally work as a nurse, make decent money, fully own my home, fully own my car, have decent retirement plans and decent savings. I'm fairly certain that I am financially better off than most people I know. Okay, he says that he can't trust me anymore and that he was stupid to have listened to my financial advice. But the thing is, I never gave him any, except for telling him not to buy a car that was, in my opinion, unreliable and much too expensive, which, let's be honest, is pretty reasonable and obvious advice. OP asks, did I deceive him by not telling him how I got myself financially stable? FYI, we've been dating for almost a year and a half. No. You just got some money. Why do people need to know how you made your money? Like, it sounds to me as if you've got a very reliable job and you're in a great spot. If anything, I'd be happy about that as your partner. So, you know what, fair play. Like, you've got your house outright. You've gone through nursing school. You're a qualified nurse. You're doing well. You're chilling. You know what you're doing. You clearly have a good relationship with money. Why does it matter how you earned it in the first place? Also, the first lump of money that you get is always the hardest bit. Once you have, your house, a mortgage, you've got your job, you've been through school, you've paid off debts or whatever, money surely then becomes less important in that exact moment. Like what more do you need than a solid job and a house? And you have those two things. Why do you now need to be earning loads of money and be really financially savvy? I don't really see why you'd need to do that. It's very, very weird. Surely you can just be happy for someone that they have a house. I mean, nobody my age, apart from like 2 people that I know, has bought a house or owns their house outright. But no one owns their house outright, that's for sure. So I'll just say fair play. This is great. And keep it up. You're doing a great thing no matter how you got the money. Like, does that also mean that sorry, I know I'm rambling, but if someone gets a lot of, inheritance money, that, oh, actually that money is kind of, not yours in a sense that you didn't earn it in the right way, and therefore you've actually gone down in my estimations because the money wasn't earned by you. Again, no, I don't really care. It's also not deception. It's just, what a weird word or weird take to have on this. Okay, editor's note here. Edit. I just had, the editor of who's put this up on Best Of has said, all these following edits occur in the same day within 8 hours. Okay, so OP edited this and said, I just had another very weird conversation with him and I honestly can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, so he's definitely a gold digger. Okay. He asked me how much I have in savings and seemed impressed with how much, and then said maybe he reacted too aggressively. Then he asked/told me that he still wants the car I advised him not to get. He hinted at me getting it for him as a birthday present since it's his birthday in early March. I'm definitely dumping him. I'm going to wait till my 2 sisters and my 2 brother-in-laws can come over before I break up with him in case he reacts crazy. That's not great. You don't want that. Being in a relationship with somebody that you have the potential, or you can see the potential for them to go crazy, that's a bit scary. Edit 2. He's jealous and also resentful. He is ranting about how he would have tripled the money if he had won it. You're meant to be in a relationship with this person. What is he doing? Edit 3. He's saying that my money is wasted on me because I don't make it make money. Apparently, I should have been investing my savings in high-yielding stocks and other stuff. FYI, I do get financial advice from a financial advisor that I trust, but I'm a risk-averse person, so I'd never invest it in the manner this idiot is telling me. Sure, the chance to get a lot of money is there, but so is the chance to lose it. Exactly. And also, the main point is your money. And it sounds as if you got a lot more than him. Doesn't matter how you got it in the first place. Now, an idiot who got the amount of money you did would not have put themselves through nurse school, would not have bought a mortgage on a house or paid for the house outright. They would have bought an unreliable car that's really overpriced, and instantly, the moment you buy it, would lose a load of value. Let's be completely honest. I don't know why this guy is chatting so much. You know what I mean? Ridiculous. Edit 4. He's now in a crazy rant because I suggested we take a break from this argument, as I don't want to ruin my few days off. My God, I can't believe how he's behaving. He thinks he's so clever, but I'm thoroughly disgusted. Oh, it is absolutely over between us. Edit 5. Okay, so I understand him better now. Okay, this is interesting. My house / the property it's on is what led him to believe I was much richer than I am. He assumed I was loaded. So me telling him I actually got lucky angers him. Then, when he found out how much in savings and assets I have, he perked up and had a change of mind. He's now telling me that with just a quarter of my money, he can show me how to invest in the stock market and make real money. Oh, he is genuinely deluded. Okay, now I do just want to say that I think that, this is probably not worth saying, but you guys know this already. If you do have a lot of cash, it is obviously, and this is not financial advice, obviously, but this is just like common knowledge. It is good to put that money to use in some way rather than just letting it chill in a bank account and lose value over years. So the general principle and the point that he's making is a fine one, but that's with your own money. And if you want to do that, if you're a risk-averse person, there's nothing wrong with just leaving it in a bank and having it there. I mean, look, we saw in the recession when OP, used the money to buy a house for cheap. that having liquid cash there was great. And if you had invested into lots of other things, the stock market, property, whatever, you lost a lot of money. So if you want to be completely safe, that's what you do. Obviously, it is probably advisable to invest some of your money in something and not have it all in cash, but you've also purchased a house. That is literally investing money. I don't really understand what this guy's doing. The main point being that it's not his money, so why is he trying to, chat load of wash? But anyway, that is it for the first post. Some people asked down below, how long have you been together? Were you together when you won the money? They've been together almost a year and a half. I didn't even know him when I won my money. All right, now let's get into an interaction here between a Redditor down below and OP. Someone said, you're obviously not the jerk here and not in the wrong. It sounds like he is insecure because you make more or have more success than him. Yeah, exactly. I agree. He is putting you down to make himself feel better. Yeah, there's definitely an inferiority complex going on here. Nurses make bank. They work hard hours and are compensated accordingly. Simply ask him, knowing how you probably earn 100k per year and another 30, 40k in overtime, if he believes you could own your home without your prior luck. Because unless it's a mansion, buying anything in the recession was cheap, and as stated, you likely make bank. If he feels like you don't deserve your home because of some chance or luck and couldn't afford it, offer to move into his comparable home that he purchases. Yeah, exactly. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure. Oh my goodness me. Take it all back. I was going to say I'm not sure about the numbers here for a nurse's salary, but then I have no idea what country this takes place in. I've just seen something there. Wow. Honestly, I don't think he recognizes your success, and I think you need a long chat about it over a bottle of wine or 3. He can either be proud of you and drop it, or he can be single. Apologies for touching my mic there. OP says, I earn a bit over 200k. And with overtime, I earn more. I also know I could buy a fairly decent place now if I wanted to, and I base that on my colleagues who purchased their homes in the past few years. Yeah, I think if you're earning over 200k, you're doing pretty well. You're doing very, very well. That is phenomenal. Does your boyfriend not know you earn that much then? I guess he doesn't. But, I mean, just that... I wouldn't tell him that, by the way, if he doesn't know, because what you're trying to get to the bottom of here is what is he really insecure about? But... I mean, clearly, you know yourself. You're very financially well off. You're doing very well. That's phenomenal stuff. Yeah, fair play. OP continues, you're right. I'm definitely going to ask him. I was just so taken aback by his response to me sharing things with him that I was genuinely perplexed as to what I did to cause such an argument. Still important to recognize how much luck plays a part in wealth, OP though adds. I absolutely recognize that my win put me in an extraordinary position. If I didn't win, I would have had student loans and other debt hanging over my head. I've never thought of myself as superior or more worthy than anyone else of being financially stable. No, but, and yes, that is true, but it sounds to me as if you would have been able to pay off this debt relatively quickly. Maybe, yeah, you would have had to wait a few more years before buying a house and you would have had to rent. Fine. But if we're talking like in terms of financial years, how many years really is that putting you behind where you're at right now? 5 maximum? I know it's a lot of money to go to like doctor school or whatever it's called in whatever country it is, but I don't know. You don't have to pay it all off at once. You're earning over $200,000 now per year, maybe more with overtime, as you said. I think you would have been completely fine anyway. Let's be completely realistic. That is a fantastic salary. OP continues, I literally grew up very poor, and that money changed my life and the lives of my sisters. So I absolutely recognize the privileges and opportunities it gave me and what it continues to give. To an extent, I agree. But now you're killing it on your own. You can win loads of money. And we hear about lottery winners, right? That win a load of money and in a couple of years they've lost it all because they're absolute clowns, spent it all on stupid cars, didn't, use it to actually benefit their life in the long term. And that's it. So yes, you made money from a little bit of luck. Who knows exactly what happened there? Sounds to me like probably some form of lottery win. But that's it. What you chose and choose continually to do with that money is up to you, and you do very, very well. Right, more on the boyfriend. So they did talk about money. OP said that he had 18k in savings. In regards to him moving in, he was definitely given a 30-day notice and he looked for a place. In fact, I helped him with it, but the rental market was just a bit brutal, so we agreed he could move in, and yes, he pays rent. My jaw dropped when he hinted at me getting a Tesla for him. Talking to him the past couple of days has literally hurt my brain. He says one thing, then the next will be contradictory to the previous thing he said. He hinted at you getting a Tesla for him. I think this guy just likes cars. That's it. And he's looking at you and really trying to, get a car out of you, if anything. It's clear that he's a gold digger. OP says, and finishes here with this post, he was never like this before. I guess moving in made it difficult to hide his crazy. And maybe that is the final point, really, before we get into an update here. You just probably didn't see these red flags, or he didn't show them to you. He is a gold digger. And yeah, moving in is impossible to hide those things. Simple as that. Now, quite obviously, OP was voted as not the jerk. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, get in the comments down below. Do you think that OP could possibly be the jerk here? Obviously not. Right, 3 weeks later, we got this update. I've been repeatedly asked to give an update, and here I am. This is posted on February 22nd, just 10 days or so ago. So, my sisters and brother-in-laws came over, and I asked him to leave. He got very angry and argumentative. While he and I argued, my family packed up all his stuff and put it in his car. He didn't have much at mine, as most of his furniture and other bigger items were already in storage. He couldn't believe that I'd break up with him over such a little thing, as if he hadn't spent 3 days yelling and ranting at me. He finally left and is now staying at his parents' house. His parents called me to ask what happened. I explained the situation, and they said it was for the best that we broke up. Okay, so maybe they're actually, unlike the parents in the first post, sensible and reasonable. Who knows? It can happen. There can be sensible people out here and in these stories. I didn't see him for a few days, but he called and texted a whole bunch, and it was just him flipping between being regretful of his behavior to raging at my audacity and stupidity. Then I got a call from Mike, one of his friends, and he asked me what happened because my ex-boyfriend was telling people that he broke up with me for being a cheater. Right, okay, so now he's just trying to slander you. Apparently, he caught me sleeping with some random dude. Yeah, actually, your financial advisor. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. This guy, I mean, look, we can say what we want about the financials and him being a gold digger, etc., and you finding out the truth about him. Ultimately, he's just a dick. Plain and simple. And I really hope that I censored that live. Otherwise, YouTube are not going to like that. But yeah, a dick he is. That's all I can say. I explained the real situation to his friend, and he laughed, saying he was wondering when he'd bring up his money schemes. Oh, God. So we had a long chat, and he told me how my ex had recently lost a lot of money in trading, and that's what had him stressed and anxious. It's also what pushed him over the edge. Apparently, he was angry with me for not taking the same risks that he takes. He complained to Mike about me being a risk-averse person. Mike told me to move on and to change my locks because my ex apparently had a history of being nasty when dumped. He was right, because a few days after that, my ex broke into my house. And here we go. This is the reason for the feces trigger, guys. Took a poop on my kitchen counter. He was arrested while he was in the process of evacuating his bowels. Oh my goodness me. I obviously changed the codes to my security system so he couldn't get in with the old codes, and by the time he'd broken into the back door, the police were already on their way. He tried to tell them that he was my boyfriend and lived in the house, but what resident breaks the back door of their house and bleeds over the entire hallway, then takes a poop on their own kitchen counter? He spent the night in jail and was bailed out the next day by his parents. They called to apologize, and I told them to never contact me again. I am also in the process of getting a protection order. And here is that same quote that we read at the beginning. I have never dated crazy before, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked at his insanity. I can't believe what I've just read. If you're watching this on YouTube, you would have seen there. Just utter shock and dismay on my face. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy. But we're not done, guys. We're not done. Let's get some comments. Someone asked, what was the process of cleaning that up? Why do you want to know? I mean, do I even read this? I do. But why do you want to know? I'd arrived back to the house, OP says, while he was in the back of the police car, and one of the officers recommended a cleaning company that specializes in biohazards. Luckily for me, they could have someone come in the morning for an emergency priority fee, and honey, I was happy to pay. My brother-in-law also temporarily boarded up the back door with some leftover plywood he had. Then I paid a guy I know to replace the doors, and I paid extra for some real solid and heavy doors. He also painted the hallway. The cleaners had to use harsh chemicals to get the blood off, and it damaged the paint. He'll also be remodeling my kitchen for me. It is outdated, and I've always planned to fix it up. If there's ever a good excuse, in my opinion, to remodel your kitchen, it's your ex pooping on it. Jeez. Honestly, didn't even go in the house. I saw what I needed to on the security cameras. I was too devastated. The cleaners, though, did do an excellent job. There you go. There's always a silver lining, isn't there? That is one thing. Some more info on the forensic cleaner. God. I had to call them. I called them up and explained that I needed cleaning of bodily fluids, the blood and stool. They agreed to take me on and could have the team arrive in the morning. The cleaning company specializes in forensic cleaning and biohazards. They're an independent company and do not work for the police or the government in any way. I paid just under $2,000. Oh my goodness. This included the cleaning fee and the emergency priority fee. I mean, to be fair, you're not going to get a lot of people wanting to clean up that sort of stuff, and that's probably why it's so expensive. The police did take pictures of the house and had me send them my security camera recordings. Right, good question here. After that, I can't really quite believe what I read. How did the history of being nasty when dumped not come up before? This is a valid question, but I to be honest, can already kind of understand why it wouldn't, because who's going to say this? And why would one of his friends say this to you? It would just be a weird thing to say, but anyway. We did discuss past relationships, but obviously everything was a lie. Yeah, not surprising. He had told me his last ex cheated on him. They were together for 3 years, and Mike told them that it was true, but I was missing the part where she had only cheated as a form of payback before she broke up with him because he had repeatedly cheated on her. Yeah, I mean, selective memory, obviously just lying. Nothing you can really do about that, and I'm not really surprised that this didn't come up in the past. It's just something that was always going to come up at one point, but you can't blame yourself. Not that you are, by the way, but you can't say, oh, how didn't I see this sooner? You see the good in people if you're a good person. Obviously, you wouldn't expect something like this. Right, a question about cameras and removing access to things. OP is on it. Literally have cameras all around and in the house. He hasn't contacted me since his arrest, but if he does, I'm absolutely keeping notes and informing the police. I never thought of this, but I went ahead and changed all my logins and my Wi-Fi username and password. Thanks. Great point. Oh, imagine him just like being a creep outside your house, getting all your info, and you know, he probably still has obviously the login for the username and the password of the Wi-Fi. In fact, he would, unless you change it. So yeah, good stuff. Someone asked, where did the blood come from? God, that is the last question. When he broke down the door, he also damaged the glasswork it had. The glass obviously shattered and it sliced up his hands and forearms. They weren't deep cuts, but it was enough to make for a shocking crime scene. He then went into the house with blood all over the hallway and parts of the kitchen. He used some of my kitchen towels to wrap up his arms, so blood was also in the kitchen area. When he was arrested, the officers did call for an ambulance and he was treated on site while I was speaking to one of the other officers. And there we go. That is the end of the absolute abomination of a story. What do you even say to that other than just ridiculous? Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, get your comments in down below. Could you have seen this earlier? I guess that's the main point. You know, when you're in a relationship with somebody and you love them and you're a nice person yourself, as I said, and you see the good in them, do you think that there may well have been warning signs before this? Could OP have spoken to Mike earlier and really got the truth? I don't think she could have done personally, but maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe there probably would have been signs, but I just feel like, you know, when you really love someone, you can sometimes look over their negatives until maybe something like this happens. Who knows? Overall, crazy couple of stories there in that one. And yeah, that is the beauty of this subreddit. One from 2015, one from just a week ago. Equally as good in my opinion. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.